my door, rock and roll, feel the glamour in pink. Kiss me here, touch me there, hanky panky.
You can touch, you can play. If you say I'm always yours, I'm a Barbie girl in the Barbie world. Life in plastic, it's fantastic. You can brush my hair and dress me everywhere. Imagination, life is your creation.
Come on, Barbie, let's go, Barbie.
Make me walk, make me talk to whatever you please. I can act like a star, I can beg on my knees.
Come jump in, bimbo friend, let us do it again. Hit the town, fool around, let's go party.
You can touch, you can play. If you say I'm always yours, I'm a Barbie girl
Barbie girl.
in the Barbie world. Life in plastic, it's fantastic. You can brush my hair
Brush your hair.
and dress me everywhere. Imagination, life is your creation.
Come on, Barbie, let's go party. Oh, come on, Barbie, let's go party. Come on, Barbie, let's go party. Come on, Barbie, let's go party. Oh, come on, Barbie, let's go party. Come on, Barbie, let's go.
I'm a blonde bimbo girl in a fantasy world. Dress me up, make it tight, I'm your dolly.
You're my door, rock and roll, feel the glamour in pink. Kiss me here, touch me there, hanky panky.
You can touch, you can play. If you say I'm always yours, I'm a Barbie girl in the Barbie world. Life in plastic, it's fantastic. You can brush my hair and dress me everywhere. Imagination, life is your creation.
Come on, Barbie, let's go party.
Make me walk, make me talk to whatever you please. I can act like a star, I can beg on my knees.
Come jump in, bimbo friend, let us do it again. Hit the town, fool around, let's go party.
You can touch, you can play.
Hey Barbie, how's it going? Welcome everyone to the stream! The stream you've been waiting for. Today is the Chud Watch, in which we are going to take a look at a bunch of right-wing reviews of the Barbie movie and explain why they're probably wrong. Sorry it took so long. I ended up having to go see Barbie, of course, because I didn't want to talk about it without having seen it. So now I've seen it, I enjoyed the film. I will try and avoid spoilers as much as possible. I won't say anything, and if I need to say something, I will warn you before I say it if it is a spoiler. But honestly, in my opinion, the Barbie movie doesn't do anything super surprising. Mostly you're there for the message and the comedy and the performances and the sets. Oh my god, the production design was beautiful. Let's see what I missed in the chat while I was getting ready. Bumble Homestead says, "Hi Barbie." Radiology says, "Bit long for a cleanse, but given the insane shuddery due to come up, maybe a long and literal cleanse would be good at some point." Oh, Barbie Restore. Interesting. Thank you for the link. All spoilers all the time. The movie's only the second weekend. I'm actually not even sure what it's at right now, box office, but I know it's been doing pretty well. Citisaurus says, "You may have already seen this, but since I had to suffer through it, I feel like you must suffer too. It's meant with love, of course." Oh gosh, let's see. Oh no, why Pregnant Sonic?
Hey, man.
Oh my god, no. Shit. No, it's not what it looks
I
like.
see what's going on here. Can I rap with you for a second?
Yeah, but listen.
It's only natural to have certain impulses. Whom amongst us hasn't pulled up Pregnant Sonic? It's only natural to be
578 million right now? That's pretty good. That's pretty darn good.
excited by something that's filled with life.
It's not like an attraction.
It's
thing.
not necessarily a sexual thing.
No.
But there are sexual feelings involved, of course. Who hasn't, thought about maybe beloved franchise characters?
I'm horrified and impressed at the dedication to such a silly idea for a bit. Good for them. I'm happy. Oh boy. Okay, so I guess before we get into their Barbie reviews, I should give a brief one of my own, I suppose. Overall, I thought it was a really good movie. It was interesting in that it was both a meta-commentary and also a commentary on meta-commentary in general. It's probably, I said this to Baja, considering the box office, this might be the most prolific piece of pro-feminist mass media ever, which is funny to think about. Just the number of people who are going to see this, and it directly talks to you about, like, feminism. Unabashedly, unashamedly. It's fucking amazing. And chuds are freaking out about it, so we're definitely gonna watch some stuff. I thought it was funny. The performances were great. There was a dance sequence at the end that was very fun. Ryan Gosling as Ken, probably gonna at least get nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Margot Robbie, also excellent in the film. Greta Gerwig, again, great writer-director. Just fun movie. Enjoyed it. Would recommend. Radiology says the actual awkward thing is that it was a perfectly normal inflation kink porn and there was no need for the intervention. Oh, God. Meek, thanks for continuing your gift sub. And I think we're caught up. Cool. Margot Robbie did play Harley Quinn in the DCEU, yes. Let's take a look, before we actually get into the reviews, this is like a... where is it? I have like a panel show of some kind where it has some different like media chuds and stuff talking about Barbie's box office, and I assume they're devastated, so let's take a look. Or they're gonna be like, it's all fake, unlike Sound of Freedom, which has a very real audience. Meek with a $5 super donation. I don't even know what those are called. Super tip? Not sure what they're called. They're new. Says there's nothing wrong with pregnant Sonic. It's just there's nothing wrong with pregnant Hannah. You know, I don't think I could pull it off. Baja can try though. Gnome Pickle says it's almost like a movie that is made for women cannot be understood by men who think they're the main character. Who would have guessed? Bumble Homestead, thanks for gifting a sub and kicking off a hype train, which we will do while we're listening to these guys cope and seethe or whatever.
Speaking of rough ones, we have been watching... Yeah, it's good.
Speaking of rough ones, we are a bunch of adult men drinking together on a stream, and our topic of conversation is how butthurt we are that a movie written and directed by a woman addressing feminist topics is popular. It's a good look. It's a good look for these guys. Not divorced dad energy at all. 16% to level 2 on the hype train. All men are knuff except these guys. Even they are knuff. They just don't know it. That's why they're shitty like this, okay? Everyone is knuff. That's the whole problem, is their toxic behaviors and their aversion to things different than their particular perspective is there for defensive reasons. And also, you can think they're shitty, but whatever. 16% to level 2.
We've all seen Barbie, and, well, it's become an absolute behemoth at the box office. It's currently sitting at $472 million worldwide, according to...
That was yesterday. It's made about 100 million since then. Today's Saturday, so this weekend we'll see what it drops to. I think I saw a projection that was either between like a 60 and 50% drop. I'm not sure though, just depends.
The box office.
The standard is 50, for the record. It's about average.
Mojo. This movie is well on its way to making $1 billion. I'm gonna hold my hands up. Couldn't have called it. I did not predict this. It's a strange world that we live in. It really is, but...
Have you considered that maybe you don't fundamentally understand the perspectives of the entirety of the film-going audience? I'm thinking in particular like 50% of them at least.
But having seen it, gentlemen, how did you find it? Were you entertained? Was it as enjoyable a feminist comedy as some?
Are they okay? How long will it take them to make a comparison to the 2016 Ghostbusters film? Is it going to be in his next breath, or will it be sometime in the next 20 minutes? Is he about to talk about 10 minutes? Okay, that's fair. That's a fair guess, I think.
People seem to think it was.
Discovering I was naive to ever have assumed that I was going to get something like Small Soldiers, but for girls, which...
Do you think girls didn't watch Small Soldiers? That's literally the first movie me and my now wife watched together because we both find it nostalgic. That was one of her favorite movies too, and I know they're going to be transphobic towards me if they heard this, but like, she's cis, so she's been a girl the whole time.
No, it would have
Their
been
entire
something.
conception of like movies is so fucking weird to me. You guys know I know about movies. I own a lot of movies. I have opinions about movies, and they're so stupid about it. Whistle34, thanks for 13 months. 44% to level 2 with a minute and a half left.
Remember the Malibu Stacy? No.
We only have, let's see, today, tomorrow, and the next day to finish the sub goal for the month, chat. Subs.
That's Simpsons. Who
Oh, that felt gross.
the f- Wendy, I think they are in
Sorry.
Small Soldiers. The little Barbie dolls that get experimented on and turned into like soldiers. It's
Yeah.
but yeah,
Wasn't that so awesome, man, when the symbols of femininity were turned into tools of violence, which I like? Holy shit, bro. That should be totally what the actual Barbie movie is, because I'm the key demographic for that. Gnome Pickles says, my baby sister was so upset that we couldn't build a machine to make her Barbies an army after she watched that scene in Small Soldiers. PK the Lost, thanks for 32 months. 75% to level 2 with 30 seconds left. Save the train.
You know, beggars can't be choosers with films, and so I ended up watching a film that I never could have predicted would have been written the way it was. And then I come out of it, and I'm like, all right, that was that. And then I start hearing people thought it was funny.
Shocking. Xandris, thanks for gifting a sub and saving the hype train. Over level 2.
I was like, shit, I'm in the wrong...
Who are these guys again? They're people who independently also do their own kind of Chud media channels. They often do streams together where they'll hang out and talk about their awful opinions about movies. So the guy on the top right is Nerdrotic. That's what his channel goes by. I'm not sure of the others. I mean, the guy on the bottom has, like, the name, The Movie Kennick. I don't know who the guy in the middle top is. I assume these are all probably their YouTube names, but I'm not as familiar. I am familiar with Nerdrotic, though.
Dimension again. Because that happens every once in a while. We've all been there.
Well, we all cross over into different dimensions, you know.
Rachology says, sub to Hannah. She deserves it because she's great at her job. Sometimes.
And then I was
Too
told...
much of this, and away you go.
The film has loads of heart. And I was like, no. How could you say that? Don't invent organs. That's just fucked up. And then...
Mr. Pizza Pasta, thanks for 20 months, says, name a more iconic duo, a right-winger and no media literacy.
Of course, on top of all that, I get told, you know what? You made some interesting points. I was like, all right, I'm out.
I was immediately given different perspectives than my own about a movie that was all about listening to people with different perspectives and coming to understanding so we can all understand each other and be equal, no matter who we are. Immediately came out of that movie and heard someone with a different opinion and was like, fuck off, I don't want to hear it. Genius. That's brilliant. You clearly absorbed a lot of that movie.
That's it. I'm done.
I'm just out of the human race now. I'm done.
Interesting doesn't mean good.
You know, yeah.
It really was like crossing into another dimension too, because like at the worst, when I was going into it, I figured I was like, oh, it's a feminist movie. Like men have their areas, and that's totally cool. And you know, I'm seeing it because it's my job. But it was like peeling behind the curtain of like, this is what you guys talk about, like as a feminist movement. Like this is like it's just like a man-hating event. It was
That's
weird.
not the movie. Did you watch the fucking movie? Did you watch the fucking movie? Holy shit. Lucas Dawn, thanks for 26 months, says, getting close to another sub, baby. I've heard this, too, that they're like, oh, everyone in the film was either evil or an idiot if they were a man. No. First of all, is her name America Ferrera? Is that the actress's name? Her husband was in the movie, not a ton, but he was clearly a decent, supportive guy who wasn't an asshole, even though we didn't see him a ton. That was his characterization. And even Will Ferrell's character at the end came through, right? He does express in the movie, like, I want to save little girls' dreams, you know? So he's ignorant and part of a system that might be, you know, patriarchal. But either way, he still had parts where he was, like, doing the right thing. And Alan, fucking great, gets to do a karate fight. So what are you talking about? The movie certainly doesn't like toxic masculinity, but no one does except for assholes. Citisaurus says, going over to my aunt's house tonight to have her measure me for my binder. She gave me a $50 gift card to GC2B. I've tried like 3 other brands and none of them worked right, were comfortable. They all either pinched or rolled up or didn't have much compression. Hopefully this one will work out. Tired of wearing 2 small sports bras. Cautiously optimistic happy dance. I hope it works out. 57% to level 3 with a minute left.
People often talk about like,
is Alan gay Ken? No, gay Ken is Ken Magic Earring Ken, and he is in the movie. But he is called like whatever the doll was called, Magic Earring Ken, who had the alleged cock ring. He is in the movie, and he does fight for the side of the Barbies. As do another guy. I think it was like Sugar Daddy Ken. Anyway, there were men in the movie that weren't depicted as evil or bad. so objectively untrue. I assume these guys just didn't see themselves in those men because those men were non-toxic, normal human beings who aren't weird, anti-feminist toxicity dumps. 80% to level 3 with 30 seconds. Radiology, thanks for 20 months. Resub, someone save it. Damn. Oh,
the mask slipped with this one. And it's just, you know, the whole conspiracy thing. But this, it's like they just took
thank you for the level 2 hype train, everyone.
mask straight off.
Yeah.
And let you see the horrifying monster that lay beneath it, like right from the first
The
frame
horrifying
of that movie,
monster. They called Barbie a horrifying monster.
Let up. And
Or at least the movie. Let me do a poll, actually, because I'm curious. How many of you have actually seen Barbie versus have not? So I'm going to do a poll real quick. Okay, answer this poll, because I'm curious how many of you have seen it, so I know generally how to talk about this. Am I talking to an audience who hasn't seen it, or has seen it, or kind of a mix?
yeah, I just never
This is Drinkers Chasers, yes.
expected it to be this.
Which is a show on the Critical Drinkers channel, who is, as you would imagine, one of these weird Chud movie media critic types.
blatant, and this upfront about what it was and how much it hates men.
That's supposed to be intend to, by the way. Sorry, I typoed and didn't notice.
Like, it was genuinely
Funny how they didn't go after movies like Jackass that had idiot men. Yeah.
surprising.
To be fair,
I
Drinker,
never
as
saw
much
that coming.
As much as there was horrifying creatures in the film, they provided a knight in shining armor to the audience. He didn't make it in the end. He didn't quite come through, but I was rooting for him in the movie.
Yeah, this was like a one flew over the cuckoo's nest kind of scenario here. Like,
Okay, let's take a look at the results. Looks like the vast majority have not seen it, but most of those intend to. Okay, so I will try and be as spoiler-free as possible.
Ken was the
And I'll try not to go over spoilery bits as much as possible.
absolute hero of this one. He just got destroyed by the system.
Yeah.
At least not spoilery to specifics. It will be spoilery to themes and stuff.
Yeah, horrible. Absolutely horrible movie. And yeah, the people saying like, oh, well, it's actually a subtle critique of modern feminism because, you know, you get the woman who, I think the mother who sits down and has that big old moan about everything that's so difficult about her life. You know, it's like...
That's literally, like, the climax of the movie involves a large speech that America Ferrera's character gives about the difficulties of being a woman in the modern world. Like, it's literally the closest to just outright saying the thesis of the movie. But no, it's just moaning. It's just moaning. Have you guys considered that maybe the reason you didn't expect this to be a hit is because you don't understand women? Like, I know that that's not, like, news to anyone else. Clearly, you're in this business of being, like, a media chud person who primarily caters to young, single men who are upset about women because they won't fuck them, so they blame Star Wars and Kathleen Kennedy or whatever. I get it. That's your job, but, like, do you not understand that? I was kind of under the impression that you guys were kind of grifters. Do you really not understand that, like, your perspective is not the universal perspective? Fenekagami with 50 bits says, just watched a video from a guy called Pillar of Garbage that covered Get Woke, Go Broke grift that covered these guys, and what a bunch of flip-flopping, grifting losers they are. They are indeed. Lumi, how's it going? Welcome, Raiders. I'm Hannah. This is our stream where we're talking about the Barbie movie, watching right-wing reviews of it, like Ben Shapiro's. It's been a shit show so far. I'm trying to avoid spoilers, so if you haven't seen Barbie yet, that's okay. I'm going to try and warn if we get into spoiler territory. If you've never seen me before, I'm Hannah. I'm a leftist variety streamer. I debunk conspiracy theories. I cover dumb chuds on the internet. it's all sorts of conspiratorial, delusional thinking. Whatever. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. The maid outfit. If I get $100 in cumulative donations, I have to wear a maid outfit for a day. Today is that day, but it works out because I'm kind of dressed for Barbie. If you've seen Barbie, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway,
It's so hard to be.
oh, Rachology says, oh, and duh, I'm so rude. Make sure you follow Lumi. Lumi is great. They're excellent. I haven't actually been to your streams in a bit. I definitely need to come and hang out. Hope you've been doing well, and thank you so much for the raid. Definitely check out Lumi's channel. Can we get a shout out? We got a shout out in the chat. Make sure you click it and give them a follow, please.
Women, like,
Radiology says it was like peeling back the curtain. The mask slipped. Ah, yes, feminism, all branches of which are famous for being secretive about its ideas and opinions. It's not like they could have read books or articles to find out what feminists think. As soon as they see anything with the word feminism, they have flashbacks to anyone with a non-natural hair color, and they have too much PTSD to deal with that. Sorry, I'm not trying to make light of PTSD. It's just weird. I think their brain shuts down. They go like, oh, this is girl bullshit. I don't give a fuck. They've already decided it's wrong, so they're not going to listen. It's a shame. Hydrate. Can do.
you can't be too skinny, but you can't be too fat, but you can't be too skinny either, and people judge you constantly. And, you know, it's like, is this what it is? Is it just a therapy session where they just want to complain constantly? But then...
It's like that Garfield meme with the sign where it's no Garfield, and Garfield is like, oh, I wonder who that's for. Literally, please listen to the message of the movie for even a second. My fucking god. For 5 seconds in your adult life, please think to yourself, maybe I don't already know everything. Maybe I don't understand every perspective, and I should listen to what this is saying, instead of immediately being like, fucking feminism. Come on. This is ridiculous. Dr. Gamble says, Hannah, you don't understand. I was told when I was younger that girls come from Mars and boys come from Jupiter. Now you say, now you're saying that we're both from the same planet and that we should just see and talk to them like a normal person. Unironically, a lot of men, all of these men, do not see women as human beings. Fundamentally, there is a place in their brain, and they don't have women in the category of people. I'm not kidding. It feels like they think there's a category of men, which are people, and then, like, women, which are, like, demi-people. That's how it feels like they think about it. It's nuts! Fenakagami says, Xander Hall talked about these guys, too, and according to him, if you watched these guys as they watched the House of the Dragon trailer, they in real time literally went from its woke to its based as they watched their fans love the trailer on Twitter. Yeah, they're definitely opportunistic. I understand that. MH Darkbeast says, still the greatest Barbie meme due to this movie. Let's take a look. I have and always shall be your friend. Amazing. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but like Mattel, it's so funny, and I know it's Mattel, they don't own, you know, the movie studio, so all they can really do is try and push more toy stuff. But if you didn't see the article, Mattel is planning on making like a shared toy cinematic universe, which makes no goddamn sense. But anyway, they want to do that and make like an Uno movie, and a Hot Wheels movie, and a Polly Pocket movie written by Lena Dunham. They're doing a Magic 8 Ball movie. They already said they're doing a Magic 8 Ball movie. It's interesting to me that, to me, it feels like the success of Barbie, in part, is due to the fact that in mass media, in pop culture, when we're talking about, I thought she was writing it. I could be wrong, though. An Uno movie? How? I don't know. It seems to me that one of the reasons that the Barbie movie is doing so well is because in mass media, like I was saying, everything is pretty masculine coded. Like, even things that are, considered neutral really aren't. Our whole idea of neutral is still very slanted towards the masculine. So then you see Barbie, which of course, did a lot of did big ad campaigns, but also, mostly I think it was driven by grassroots interest and the memes about it and Oppenheimer, Barbenheimer stuff I'm sure you guys saw memes about. Anyway, I think one of the reasons it's been so successful is because it is proudly and unabashedly feminine from the perspective of women, and it espouses, it feels like in a lot of media there's almost a trepidation in how feminist arguments are made. And it always feels like, and I understand from a pragmatic perspective, because a lot of the time your audience is going to include people like this, who aren't going to be receptive to bluntness because they're so dug into their bullshit they're not going to consider other things. But a lot of the time in mass media, feminist messaging is always through this filter of almost like apology. It almost feels like apologetic for bringing it up. And this movie is not. It is just so hey, here's the themes of the movie, people. Here are feminist messaging, and we're not ashamed of it. We're not afraid of people mocking us for it. We're just gonna do it. That, to me, seems like part of the reason that the movie has done so well is because it is a rare instance of a very feminine piece of art becoming the biggest movie in the world at this moment. It's just different, and I don't think they like that. I think that upsets them. But also they don't understand it. They don't understand that hey, maybe this is popular because it speaks to a different segment of the audience than you are used to being catered to, which is typically guys like this,
And as I was watching it, I was thinking, man, most of these issues that you're highlighting don't come from men, they come from other fucking women.
Are we doing this? Are we doing this argument? Untrue. I've said this before, but since I'm a trans woman, I have an experience that, a lot of trans women have, but, not that the general public has, because most people are cis. People treat you differently when you're either perceived as a man or a woman. This is just an objective fact. I get disrespected, like you guys saw when I did that interview on the PP show a while back when I did some questions with those guys, and they didn't know I was trans at the time, and it was just a voice call anyway. They called me hysterical. They thought I talked too much, even though if you go back and listen, they were talking most of the time and talking over me and told me to shut the fuck up. I don't think men like this genuinely understand how fucked up their view of women is and how disrespectful and how little thought they give them and their opinions. The idea that societal pressure to be, in shape, to, always look great or whatever, the idea that this only comes from women, sure, some women take part in that because we're familiar with the concept of internalized misogyny, right? But these things don't originate from women being we should all give really unnecessary standards to each other. It's born from a system set up to be beneficial to men. This is all contiguous with our history. We didn't all just pop into existence in the 1970s burning bras, Everything that exists in terms of people's mentalities today come from things previous, and they're born of even more patriarchal ideals in the past that were not formed by women, but formed by men in charge of the world and media. And those ideas became internalized in society, and they're still damaging to women. And oftentimes they're damaging to men too. How often have we seen men complain that I can't, people like this will be I can't show emotion or whatever. Women have it so easy, I can't show emotion. I'm not telling you not to show emotion. I've never seen a woman, be you men shouldn't show emotion. I've seen the opposite. It's crazy. Anyway.
The people that are most likely to judge you and put you down and make you feel insecure about yourself is
Not in my experience.
probably not going to be men because they're just not that interested. They're not that aware.
As we all know, men on the internet care very little about what women do and don't butt their nose into places where it doesn't belong in women's spaces or about women ever.
It's other women constantly putting you down.
Radiology says, the real sad thing is I'm fairly confident that very similar guys to these are having this exact same conversation of, why the hell was this movie popular with the same ignorant takes but wearing suits and sitting in the movie executive offices in Hollywood? I've had the same thought. Yeah.
Like, if you want to look for the source of your problems, look in the fucking mirror. But, like, the movie doesn't even have that level of self-awareness. It's so bizarre.
There was a tweet I saw once that was like, so easy for men to go out on the town and stuff because they can wear the same outfit every fucking night. It doesn't matter. Women, on the other hand, we have to wear a new one every time. And then there was a response like, men couldn't give less of a fucking shit if you wear a good dress every single time. It's the same one. We don't care. It's the women who care. They're the ones that go, you're wearing the same dress? Oh my god.
That is such an odd specific example that doesn't happen to the majority of people. Have you ever had the experience, I'm sure many women have had the experience, where, like, a lot of the time maybe you wear a pretty natural face of makeup. It just depends. Everyone has different tastes. But, you know, a lot of people, if they're going to work or school or whatever, a lot of them will at minimum put on some sort of, like, natural makeup, maybe a little foundation or concealer, you know, whatever. Just give some shape to your face, smooth things out or whatever. Get rid of some darkness maybe under the eyes. But everyone's had that day where they don't. And I've seen this happen before, where, like, men will be like, oh, you look sick, are you okay? And it's like, they're fine, they're just not wearing makeup today, and you don't know the difference between natural makeup and a real face. This is what a real human woman's face looks like. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, like, why are we getting tarred with this?
And just the idea that, like, the idea that men aren't hypercritical of women in their looks, in their demeanor, is just so on the face of it not true, especially here on the internet. We're all on the internet. We can all agree that that's an insane statement. Gnome Pickles says, I'm friends with a couple of erotica writers and OF models, and some of the messages they get from men who consume their creations is vile as heck. This, I'm sure, surprises no women here. Yeah.
Rush is like, we're not.
Even I, who don't, like, and this is before I even did the ironic maid outfit thing, like, I had random dudes send me, like, photos that were not something that I requested just on Twitter or whatever. Like, people are weird, and I'm not saying every man is like that. If you're an individual man and you're not, great. But the idea that, like, this isn't a problem, that this isn't a thing that the vast majority of women have experienced, either in life or on the internet, and they're just not listening to it. Like, do they think this movie that might make $1 billion, where most of the audience is women? I think last time I checked, 70% of ticket sales, roughly, have been women for the Barbie movie. Do you think the movie's lying? Like, do you think people are seeing this movie and going, well, you know, the primary audience, again, 70% women, if they didn't agree with the movie, if they didn't resonate with the themes, wouldn't they go to their friends and be like, this movie was terrible? But by and large, that's not what I'm seeing. My friend Tori, for instance, like, I've known her forever. She went to see it twice. Might see it more. You know? Like, this idea that, like, they have some sort of objective view and women are wrong. Their view is objective. Women's view is subjective and wrong. They have some sort of, like, overhead view of things where they think they can suss something out and disregard the feelings of women when this entire conversation is about the taste of the audience for this movie and its messaging being tailored to women. But that would require them to have the self-reflection and honesty to actually internalize something a woman said, and they are incapable of doing so. It's not good. Not healthy. These guys are shouting at the top of their lungs that they never pay attention to an e-girls chat. True!
Causing your problems. We're not even, like, most of the time we're not even aware of these things. We don't notice things like the way you do. But it's like we're somehow getting lumped in with this.
Yeah.
Weird.
Well, and it comes from such a Los Angeles, Southern Californian perspective too. So I mean, I can't imagine how this plays out in the rest of the world. But you know what? It's
been doing all right.
It was a
worldwide,
movie made for woke
too.
white women, and there's plenty of them, and they made a lot of money. But for anybody who claims to be based and walks out of this movie going, "Oh, it's fine, it was funny. There's no problems with it." Are you kidding me?
Are we purity testing now?
This thing could have been like you mentioned, normal, like Clueless or Legally Blonde. Two funny movies.
Oh God, do they not understand the underlying feminist messaging of Legally Blonde? Oh God. Oh God. Did they just think, oh no, I just had a horrible idea about what their... Do they think that Legally Blonde is... I feel like they have fundamentally misunderstood why Legally Blonde is funny and good. Legally Blonde is funny because the men in the movie continually, and a lot of people in the movie, even other women, tend to underestimate Elle Woods, the main character, the protagonist, because her personality is very feminine, very overtly high femme. She wears all pink, she loves to get her nails done, she loves to go to parties, and she kind of talks like this, you know? But she's not stupid. She's very intelligent, especially when she actually sits down and, like, does the work. But they are all assuming she can't because she is all these things that are feminine stereotypes and tropes, and society does not value these things, and thinks that they must be the antithesis of intelligence. That's the joke? I feel like they watch the movie and they think, ha ha ha, it's so funny because a woman who acts like this couldn't be smart. Like, I think they think that's the joke. And that drives me fucking crazy. Maps and Mimic says, even my extremely conservative mother felt like the climax speech resonated with her. Yeah.
Movies, right? That's what I thought it was going to be. I kind of thought it would do well. I didn't think it would do this well.
Man, it's almost like you don't have a bird's eye view on everything.
And it had a lot of opportunities to be that, and it wasn't. I talked about it before we started the show. It reminded me a lot of The Boys. A lot of people they take shots at both sides, and that's why. Like, for one, they don't take shots at both sides in Barbie. They just...
I mean, in the Barbie movie, they very specifically show that the Barbies... And in fairness, this is used as, like, an allegory. The point is that in Barbie land, the kind of gender norms are flipped. So, like, women are in charge, men are, you know, second-class citizens, basically. It's more akin to, like, let's say America 100 years ago, you know? Like, there are no Kens in power at the beginning. Though at the end, they're beginning to come to parity. They're going to make steps to allow, you know, Kens to be involved in the government. But, like, there are things about, like, there's nothing wrong with being a man, liking horses is the example for Ken in the movie. Like, that's fine. Just don't be a dick. Just don't be inconsiderate of other people. Like, the movie does express that the Barbies were unfair to the Kens. Like, they are open about that. That's part of the plot of the movie and the resolution.
No. And boys...
Did I hear Ben Shapiro was mad because one of the Barbies was played by a trans woman? I did see that, and we're going to watch his review in a little bit, whenever we're done with this one. But I saw a clip on Twitter where he's like, there's like this trans Barbie, and no one's talking about it like it's normal, and it was just so funny to me, because I'm like, Ben, yeah, for other people, trans people are just a thing that exists and it's normal. Like, I hang out with other people, I hang out with cis people, they aren't constantly like, oh my god, there's a trans person! Like, does he think that's how the world should work? Not to mention the fact that that person is trans who played the Barbie. They make it explicit in the movie that the Barbies don't have genitals. So, like, what does that even mean for this? Diegetically, what does this mean for the movie? That the concept of trans doesn't even really make sense in this context unless a Ken just, like, wanted to be a Barbie, I guess? Because Kens and Barbies are kind of allegories for gender in the movie. It's a whole thing.
I think Ryan put it best. When they take shots at the right, it's with lead. When they take shots with the left, it's like with a water pistol.
Have you considered that the right is really, 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 really bad and destructive and hateful and actively trying to take rights away from women, racial minorities, poor people, trans people, gay people? Like, I perhaps that's more serious than, like, I don't know, some, like, online white feminist being cringe sometimes. Have you considered that these two things are not proportional or are not equal in their damage to things? Like, it's fair to point out, like, hey, you know, maybe, like, I don't want to give a specific example because it's a funny joke in the movie and also poignant. There are some shots taken at, like, how even in a Hollywood film that's supposed to be about vulnerability, they're still casting very attractive people, right? There are still things where it's like, wow, this is still a story that is, a lot of it is focused on the problems of, like, Barbie, who is a, you know, perceived as a very attractive white human woman, you know? But the movie does commentate on that, you know? Like I said, it's kind of a deconstruction and a deconstruction of deconstruction. It's weird, but good. It's just interesting to me that they think that it needs to be, like, exactly the same, when in reality, no, I'd say it's proportional to, like, what we're talking about. Gnome Pickles says, wah, I'm upset that the movie calls out my toxic behavior and calls me hateful just because I view femininity as weakness and women as demi-people. It makes me sad inside. Moira Soma says, this reminds me of the big important comment so many Western men have about FGM. They think it's something women want other women to suffer in African countries because, quote, women hate other women, not seeing the thousands of year old extremely misogynistic traditions that's the root of it. Men in many African countries won't marry women who aren't mutilated, and marriage is extremely important in these societies. Oof.
I mean, that's pretty much...
It was pig ignorant. I'm sorry. I thought it was a typo at first before I saw what the whole thing was.
What this film...
The daughter did make fun of Barbie. The daughter even made fun of certain, like, talking points that have been made about Barbie. Like it was... The daughter went on a whole speech that was pretty funny, and was a parody of, like, a teenage internet, you know, edgy... I don't even know how to... Oh, let me explain it this way. She called Barbie a fascist to her face and made her cry. After a pretty, you know, trite speech about, you know, talking points that she had clearly read on the internet, you know? So there are jokes about that, absolutely. So it's weird to me that they didn't perceive that. Anyway.
But there's definitely a market for it. That's undeniable, you know? And honestly, if there's going to be a bunch of intersectional feminism, I'd rather be in a Barbie movie than anything else, than Rings of Power or Star Wars. Because it
holy shit, this is so sad.
It obviously could...
Like, they're also awful, so fuck them, but, like, the fact that all of these men seem to be in, like, a state of arrested development, it's like they have the emotional maturity of, like, a 14-year-old. Like, it's just... It's really sad.
Can work in one thing, but it doesn't work in others. Now, I don't know how much it'll work going on, because I thought the first third of the movie was fine. It was like, it wasn't great, but I'm like, okay. I chuckled a couple times, but then it just...
all of Barbie Land was amazing, by the way. I already said the production design was great, but I so badly just want to go on, like, a set for this movie, because holy shit, it's so artificial. It so looks all made of plastic. It's just gorgeous in how, like, pastel and tacky it is. I love it.
As soon as they get...
The beach in particular was pretty surreal. I love that.
in the real world, it digresses into just garbage.
It's
The first third of the movie was
yeah.
kind of like what I expected the movie would have been
Yeah.
upon first seeing that there's a
Yeah.
Barbie movie. Right, Barbie's living her happy little life.
Rings of Power is a Amazon-produced Lord of the Rings prequel series and Hobbit prequel series. It takes place like in a previous era before like the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings.
A good time. The Kens are a bunch
They didn't like it because, you know, there's women and some of the elves aren't white. So, oh my god, you know, they freaked out because they're chuds.
of mimbos, and that's all well and good, pretty silly. And then she starts to discover that, you know, she's aging, she's being used, right? Things aren't all well and good. So it could even be something like Toy Story, right, or maybe, you know, Toy Story 3, I guess, where the toys have to grapple with, you know, what comes next. But obviously it devolved well beyond that.
Yeah, like this never really deals with the whole toy aspect of it. Like the closest you get is just the fact that
What do you mean it doesn't deal with the toy aspect of it? Like all of Barbie Land was literally the toys. They literally took freeze frames for certain outfits that are like actual real official Barbie outfits. They're constantly talking about the fact that they're toys. What? What?
they get played with in the real world and it can physically damage them in Barbie world, like whatever. But
Yeah,
then that
and-
doesn't even hold up because it only applies to certain people apparently.
Oh my god, literally the movie even hand waves it. I've told you, like I said, the movie kind of is a deconstruction of deconstruction. It's very meta. So like, there's a point where they're explaining some of the like bullshit about this, like, oh, how does the portal work? Where does the portal come from? How does this, you know, blah 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 blah. And there's a character who's like, just don't worry about it. It's kind of whatever. The movie is fully aware that the rules are bullshit. It doesn't matter. That's the point. Like, when you sit down and do this shit about Back to the Future, and not just for a fun thing, it's fun to sit down and explain, like, how would the time travel dynamics of this movie work, or whatever. Sure, great, fine. But did you do this for the Lego movie? Remember in the Lego movie, like, Emmett falls through a Lego portal and winds up in the real world? Like, are they doing the same thing for that? Like, there's inconsistencies in any magical realism movie, because it's magic, and magic isn't real. That has nothing to do with the quality of the film. You're looking for things to nitpick because you didn't like that it was so unabashedly feminist.
So
Yep.
whatever. Like,
And
there's
stuff
no
like
internal logic to this. It's
Showering
all
in
just
Barbie
a-
World has no water. It's like, see, it's like dolls. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you just said you were mad that they didn't bring up the fact that they're dolls and didn't do doll humor, and now you're criticizing one of the doll humor things they did. It's almost like you don't have an actual consistent opinion, you just want to be mad, so you're picking any hypothetical thing you could not like and saying it.
And then it's really unclear, like, the whole, like, okay, do they have, like, reproductive organs or not? Like, because...
They do not. They made that explicitly clear, and if you paid attention to the movie, you would know that.
Like, how do you exist in the real world if you don't have them? Like,
I guess
How do you exist in the real world without genitals? I'm pretty sure there have literally been people who have been born without genitals. What are you fucking talking about? Do you think genitals are like lungs? Like, how do you... What? What?
they ship the Barbies over to Barbie Land every time they make a new one, even though that would never make any sense. Like, Barbie Land should be filled with fucking hundreds of thousands of dolls.
This feels like a Doug Walker review. It's like they're like, plot hole, plot hole. Is this fucking CinemaSins? Did you watch the movie? You are missing the entire point and trying to find things to nitpick because you can't directly comment on the fact that you just don't like it because of feminism, and you'll say it, but you won't say specific critiques because you didn't actually absorb anything the movie said. God damn.
it should, and, like, if it did reflect what happens to them in the real world, like, some of them would just suddenly get crushed or set on fire or, like, eaten by a dog or whatever. Like, it would just, it would be horrific. But
funny,
none
'cause,
of
like,
that
it's totally-
happens.
Like, people could be like, why are you even talking about this? Mechanics of Barbie Land. It's like, they fucking told me what they were and they were stupid.
And then the movie said they're also stupid. It was like, yep, we're there with you. This doesn't matter. All you need to know is Barbie's going to the real world. That's the thing. That's it. Groundhog's Day. Do I need to understand the mechanics of Groundhog's Day for that movie to work? No. You don't need to know, and there actually in the original script was an explanation specifically for why he was trapped in Groundhog's Day, but they wrote it out of the script because they decided it was superfluous and didn't matter. I don't see you complaining about that, and that movie doesn't even hand-wave it, it just ignores it and never answers the question, it's never even really asked. You only care about it in this case because you want to hate this movie, and because you do hate it because it's, again, saying things you don't like.
They could have.
Don't Pickle says, Dear Chuds, allow us to answer your questions about the fundamentals of how Barbie Land works with this clip.
Eats and breathes and
Other science facts. It's just a show.
just relax.
Mystery Science Theater 3000.
And not had anyone talk about it. Because Barbie Land could have been a protected area of a different dimension that Mattel looked after. If you remember, there's even a line where a guy's like, so is this an alternate dimension? Is this a place you can go if you go really far? And then they just go, yeah. Like,
That's the joke! That's the joke, you fucking idiots! That's the movie acknowledging it doesn't matter. It's acknowledging we know you're going to have these questions and we are telling you it doesn't matter. That's the joke. That's literally the fucking joke. You don't have to find it funny if you don't. Humor's subjective, but like, don't act like they didn't address it. The answer is it doesn't matter. It's a plot device. Movies aren't the real world, just like the real world isn't movies. Sometimes there are things you handwave for narrative purposes. It's fine. This isn't new. This is how all movies have worked for all time. And I know it can be fun to nitpick. I understand that. I've done it. I do it. I know. But it's so annoying to me because this isn't being used for comedic purposes. This isn't being used just for a fun conversation. This is specifically being used so they can pretend they have substantive criticisms of a woman movie. Of a woman movie that has feminist messaging, and I know I've repeated that a lot, but they haven't said anything of substance.
like the joke, of course, from Greta Gerwig at that point is, whatever the hell you need to think it is what it is. But it's like, yeah, but you keep telling me what it is, and it's stupid as fuck.
And the movie says that. It acknowledges that, correct.
Someone always takes it to a dark place.
Oh no.
Wait till you see my review. Boy.
Oh god.
Rachology says, slightly off topic, but was reading some notes Tolkien made about his feelings on his elves and gender. Short version, his view was men and women elves are less physically different than human men and women, and whilst roles are typically fulfilled by one gender or another, it's purely social habit and elves feel free to take on any social role regardless. Elrond, being a healer, is fulfilling a traditionally feminine role, and yes, when female elves take up the sword, they are respected too.
As you've highlighted, Drinker, if it worked the way they said, then it would be a nightmare world. They'd be torn to shreds, most of them.
Yeah, it's a movie, though, and they actually acknowledge that, too, with Weird Barbie. That's a character where they showed that happening.
The dolls in Barbie World.
Yeah. But it always feels like it's undercutting its own message, and it doesn't really know what it wants to say. Like, you know, Barbie meets...
I think it's pretty clear on what it wants to say.
The girl that supposedly plays with her, and she's like a fucking anarcho-communist feminist activist, because of course she is.
Yeah, and it pokes fun at her for that. You should like that joke, you'd think. Because it's literally being like, aha, the high schooler, middle schooler, whatever age she was, is, you know, doing internet opinions, and they're quite extreme, even though she's very young, and probably doesn't have a grounded basis for believing these things. That's the joke, once again. Oh my god. Radiology says, a white male author from the early 20th century would be too woke a guy for these dudes.
And she's like, "Oh yeah, you're a symbol of consumerism and capitalism, and you ruined like the feminist movement and all that garbage."
But also, I stopped playing with you when I was 5.
Yeah, but it's like they're shitting on their own product, but They then don't know what to do with that. Going,
What? They literally address it in the speech. They literally address it in the speech that America Ferrera gives at the end of the movie, explaining that even the fact that there's this much discourse about a doll that has become representative of women and representative of the childhood and aspirations of girls, you know, mostly, this conversation has become toxic because society is unable to have conversations about women and femininity without it becoming toxic because society in general has a real fucking problem with women. That's the whole... It's in the text! It's not even subtext! It's in the text! It's in the fucking text of the film!
going forward, they don't know how to resolve that plot arc. And it's the same with the Mattel guys. Like, they're these ridiculous caricatures of human beings who don't understand how turnstiles work or anything, but like...
Yes, they are. Will Ferrell is a comedic actor, so he is doing comedy in this comedy film.
They're aware...
Who is my favorite non-main character Barbie? That's an interesting... I liked Weird Barbie. She was fun. I also did like the President Barbie. She was cool. Alan was great.
The fucking Barbie world exists in this alternate dimension, and you can travel...
They said that none of the Barbies and Kens have genitals. Wouldn't Midge and Alan be the exception to that? Why would Alan be the exception? Midge probably works the way that, like, the doll worked in real life, which is the belly just comes off and there's a baby in there. So that's my guess.
Travel back and forth from there, and it, like, apparently it's happened before that this shit goes on.
I know she was pregnant. I just think she was created pregnant. She's a Barbie doll that's a pregnant Barbie doll. I don't think they conceived the child. She just is pregnant because that's her role. She's the pregnant Barbie doll.
Yeah.
Why? Like, why put this in the movie?
Well,
It doesn't...
It gets especially weird when he's like, we've got to do something about it because, you know, untold things that you could never imagine will go wrong. And then he's told, actually, this is working out. The Ken Casa House Moto Dojo thing, it's actually selling off the shelves. And then he's like, no, this is
Barbie
bad.
world somehow influence the real world as well?
Yes, they expressed that.
I have no clue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so, like,
because
if
the
you
real
invent
world
something in
isn't-
that world, does it just suddenly spring into existence as a new toy line in the real world?
Yes, comedically it does, as the movie demonstrates multiple times in different gags. Yes.
World, like,
Did you watch the movie? Did you watch it sober, or were you drunk? Like, you're genuinely describing things that happened in the movie, but then being like, why didn't they explain that? They did. They explained it multiple times.
It doesn't even... You can't even separate it from Barbie Land because it's so ridiculous in the real world, too. They're like, you...
Wait a minute. Are you telling me that this comedy is a little fucking wacky? Oh my god.
were saying, the Mattel guys are caricatures of real human beings.
I think, well, but like they even have like a scene that's devoted to basically letting the audience know they're pretty sexist at Mattel. Those guys, they don't hire women, and the fact that he was like, we've had 2 women before, and you know, just like they're trying to do an implication of it. But then they later have Will Ferrell say that he can't stand Ken outselling Barbie because that's bad for women or whatever. That we need to.
Yeah, the movie makes a pretty clear commentary, and I think their black and white worldview has disallowed them from understanding this. There can be men who benefit from unjust patriarchal systems. For instance, Will Ferrell's character at Barbie is the CEO of Mattel, and his whole board is also men, and they have all benefited from a patriarchal system that put them in charge. However, on a personal level, it seems what I got from the Will Ferrell character is he obviously wants to make money, but he also on some level does care and does want to take his role seriously in being part of a product, Barbie, that is for women. You can both genuinely be an ally and also be shitty about other things without realizing it. You can be a feminist ally and be right on tons of issues and also still unfortunately be the beneficiary of a system that isn't fair. You know what I mean? Especially because it's something that personally affects him. That is a thing that happens. People will be able to see issues like broadly, but maybe they don't see the problem and how they're being affected by it personally. So he may have very pro-feminist beliefs otherwise, But in his own life, he's unable to see it because blinders keep you from seeing the effect that these things have on your individual life. Either way, it's a goddamn Barbie movie. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills for having to respond to this shit as if they didn't watch the movie. Meek says, I feel like these guys would be more forgiving of an adaptation of the Turner Diaries. No kidding.
And I was just like, what? I don't understand. What's the
Yeah, it's like, what are you
character?
trying to make this character into? It's the same with the message of like, well, if you're a man in this world, then you just get everything handed to you on a plate, and then you get Ken, who tries to like get all these high-flying jobs, like he wants to be an executive, he wants to be a doctor.
Literally, the movie makes a point that things are more complicated than black and white. Jesus Christ.
He wants to be a lifeguard, and like he's told by every person, like, no, you're not qualified. You have to work to get this. You have to earn it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how are you? the whole like section here is predicated.
It's like they're arguing against things that the movie didn't even really say, but they assumed that it's saying it because they already assume it's attacking them.
On this idea,
which in some way it is, because, you know, it does attack toxic masculinity, and they're like, very that. They literally, you know, far be it from me to critique Greta Gerwig, but it would have been hilarious in one section of the movie, which I'll be vague about, if they had a bunch of Kens on a live stream like this, doing the toxic masculinity bullshit on some sort of fake live stream to mimic this kind of thing. That would have been funny. The movie's already funny, but I would have laughed very hard if they had done that. Because they're doing the thing! They're doing the thing!
that the patriarchy exists and it does nothing but oppress women and elevate men beyond their competency, and just gives them things automatically. But like everything you're showing us is the exact opposite. It's telling you, you know, you have to earn everything. You actually have to work for it. So all the guys that are in these positions earned them by going to college, by getting training, by learning things, by working their way up.
Yes, but within the pool of people who have trained and gone to college for these things, men, statistically, are treated better by the job market. It's the point. The entire point is when two equally qualified candidates are there and one's a man and one's a woman, the man is more likely to get it because he's a man. It's not saying any man can take any woman's job. It's just that in everything else being equal, generally men have an advantage against women because of how society and how our mentality about gender functions broadly, not necessarily on an individual level, but, you know, broadly enough that it affects us even if we don't realize it.
You're undermining your own message yet again. It's like the movie doesn't fucking understand what it's even trying to say or how.
The message
I don't think you understand what the movie was trying to say.
is women do things and they don't get credit for them all the time. Okay? And then Barbie gets a vagina at the end.
Yay!
Yay.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Interesting point you made though, Gary. Like it's in some ways, is it good to just see this shit contained within a girly movie in a way? And I suppose yes, and it perhaps explains why they've tried to shove this stuff into traditionally male-dominated genres, like
Shoving all this stuff like women having agency.
whether it be Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, whatever. Like most of those things are, and people are going to go nuts over this, but
Fuck you. Doctor Who was literally, oh my god. Okay, I'm good.
it's fucking true. It's mostly guys who watch that stuff. It's
Still.
mostly guys who are into that stuff. Not all, but mostly. And so
The first, showrunner of Doctor Who was a woman. Doctor Who has always been pretty progressive relative to its time. Obviously, there are things that have not aged well, but relative to its time, it's generally been pretty progressive and open.
you bring that feminist, intersectional stuff into it, it's never going to find a footing because the guys are just not going to embrace it. But here you found fertile ground because it's a movie marketed to and for women. And so, okay, fine. I guess you can understand why it's such a massive hit because those are the people going to see it. And man, hats.
A Jewish woman at that. Oh, I guess I didn't know she was Jewish. Simple Cat Girl says, I know that these guys are grifters and are simply mad at feminism. However, it's a good case point in that some people of power media analysis skills. Is that supposed to be poor? Media analysis skills, because a lot of media have always brushed against their beliefs. And instead of looking to change themselves or at least think or re-examine their beliefs, they just simply deny it and take bad faith analysis to keep them comfortable.
It's off to the marketing guys, because they pulled an absolute blinder on this one. They somehow made everyone want to see this movie. It became an event.
Somehow. I wonder how.
I don't know why, but it somehow is.
Could I fundamentally not understand the mentality of women? No, it must be the women who are wrong.
It's better than the Black Panther marketing, which I thought previously was the best marketing.
Yikerinos. Getting some racism in here too. Great.
Of all time, because it made it a cause. It's you are fighting racism if you
Hydrate. Black Panther's a good Marvel movie, though? Do you think Black Panther isn't a good movie? Again, it's like they don't understand. Movies that are made for markets and demographics that aren't normally catered to do well because people are like, oh shit, representation. Like, how can you not understand this? Like, everything historically in the United States, all popular media historically, basically, every big film has been written for dudes like you, random white guys, random mediocre white guy. And then every once in a while, there's a thing that's not written for you, and you're like, I don't understand it. Yeah, it's because everything is normally written for you, and you never have to think.
see Black Panther and give Disney money.
Yep.
So
well, what they did here was they advertised it kind of like Super Mario Brothers, where it's supposed to be like this harmless thing, and even if you dislike it,
this harmless thing. MH Darkbeast says, here's an interesting Barbie-related cleanse. Lots of interesting Barbie lore. Thank you.
in big, bold, pink letters in the trailer, it said, if you love Barbie, you'll love this movie. If you hate Barbie, you'll love this movie.
I think that's probably true. But you don't hate Barbie, you hate women. So of course you didn't like it.
Like inviting people along to come and see it because it's just going to be a harmless little romp on a IP everyone recognizes, whether you're a boy or girl. And it's hilarious too because like the ending, it kind of it's like obligatory in the way that it's kind of like, oh, we kind of like equality, and like, you know, F gender roles, but in reality it just reinforced gender roles with like 73% of the audience being female.
Yeah, it did.
What? What?
Hilarious.
They let the Kens have one guy on the Supreme Court, okay?
No, it was a lower circuit court.
The entire joke was that that's how progress for women has been. Incremental. That's the point. Oh my god.
Lower circuit court. Yeah, well, that's what they should get.
The treatment of the Kens is a reflection of the history of the treatment of women. At the very end, they're like, okay, let's make an incremental step. And they make that clear because there's then a joke where they say, maybe one day the Kens will have just as much power in their world as women have in ours. Like, and it's like a joke. People laugh at that part. Women in the theater laugh at that part. Because it's like, I get it. Because women still don't have parity with men in terms of power. That's the joke.
Right.
The audience was like 70-something% women. I don't think that's inaccurate. I also saw that stat. But that's also not uncommon depending on the movie. There are movies that are 70% men, tend to be more action movies, tend to be heavier men leaning. Just depends.
You're not going to get too much power. You're not actually going to get to influence it.
And they said that it's to equal the real world, right?
Right, so it's not about equality, it's about revenge. So like we're
No! Did you not watch?
actually
This is such a bad faith interpretation.
like 1920s stuff, not anything modern.
I heard this.
Yeah, imagine being a Ken, right? Because in the 1920s, you know, women were there, and they only got incremental steps. They didn't get things all right away, and we still don't have all things right away. We still don't have this equality, this, like, equity and justice and all these things. That's the point. That's the point, is this is the experience of women reflected through the Kens. The fight is never over. There are always more things that you have to buck against because society is slow to change. That's the point!
Described as cultural revenge, and I thought that's a pretty apt description.
That's a pretty accurate
for
term.
what
That's
this
what's been
is.
going on, by the way. And all of this stuff is cultural revenge. It is not equality.
It's never about
Yeah.
equality. It's about revenge.
It's about revenge. No.
Yeah, the
Guys, you didn't have to go see the Barbie movie. No one made you.
very much the mindset that seems to be driving this is we've had it tough for a long time, and it's your turn now.
No, that could not be less the fucking point. That could not be less the point.
We're gonna suffer, and we're gonna make sure that you do.
Man,
That's literally what the Kens did. Again, trying not to be spoilery, but that's what the Kens did. Not what the Barbies did.
I had it it's so great being a dude. I just get given everything when I wake up in the morning. It's fantastic.
My butler comes in with my breakfast.
Yeah.
And say,
I mean,
would you like another promotion, sir? Yeah, sure, I'll take
Yeah,
one.
I'd like one. Not today. Let's not go crazy. Maybe don't.
Boy, I know. Well, I have a 16-year-old kid, and the past 10 years, the stuff I've experienced in family court, boy, as a guy, it's
There's the divorced dad energy.
I've got some stories.
Tons of equality
bet.
there.
Oh, definitely.
Oh,
To
yeah.
the point where last year my kid said, "I don't want to go home with my mother. I want to live with dad." And a female judge is like, "Too bad."
Yep.
Jesus Christ.
Good! You seem like a fucking asshole.
Boy.
It's pretty horrible over here. Not sure.
I mean,
Well, I
if
mean,
Greta
like,
Gerwig. Sorry, go ahead, Mahler.
I was gonna say, how would a film called Ken be received where we make
Yeah, I don't believe that happened either.
loads of jokes about how women have no idea what it's like to even exist in this world because they don't know what it's like to work the hardest jobs, to have the highest workplace accidents, to have the highest suicide rates, to have the highest homeless
Oh
rates.
my god. They always bring up that statistic. I'm not trying to belittle, like men's mental health issues. That is absolutely a thing, but it is such a misleading statistic. More women attempt suicide than men. Men statistically tend to use more violent means, more extreme means, guns. Women are more likely to try and take pills. Things of that nature. It's about success rate, not attempts. Gnome Pickle says, "Well, kiddo, I understand that you want to live with Dad, but Dad appears in a creepy internet video where he complains about women while being drunk at 3 p.m.
And I think that people will be like, all right,
And Citosaurus says, "I'd like to imagine that all of them are having that discussion in the same room, all facing away from one another to their individual cameras with a pile of body pillows in the middle of the room. It makes me less angry, and I pity them. They're obviously incapable of having face-to-face convos with other humans." Simple Cat Girl says, "Listen, guys, I get that some leftist feminist circles can really be weird about men, but like, my guys, that revenge bullshit fear is never going to happen because no leftist worth their shit will want that to happen." And Ultra Undying says, "The judge thinks the mother is, a baby-making care machine that men can't give care."
calm down. There are problems that everyone
In
experiences.
this case, they might be right. I don't think this guy's probably very responsible. That's just my opinion. I'm not making any definitive statements. I'm just saying I get the vibe, the fact that he's on this show. He's probably not great.
You know, they wouldn't be like, "You're right, this is a fun movie. Fun points getting made. Fun." They'd be like,
Well, I mean, again, you could even go to the point of making a movie where like all the women are portrayed as useless, hysterical, empty-headed bimbos that can't do anything for themselves.
Can you imagine if any movie was like that, chat? Oh my god. Good thing that's never happened in the history of movies before. Wouldn't that be terrible if women ever, even once, were depicted as agency-less idiots who needed men to save them? Good thing that that's never happened even once in movies. They can't be fucking serious, right? Altered Undying says, "The judge thinks..." Oh, I read that, sorry. Different name over here than on this screen. You're blue over here, you're red over here.
And get constantly like mocked and belittled by the guys. And when the inevitable firestorm of protest erupts, you just say, well, it wasn't made for you.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't made for you, honey. So you can't complain. It's like, yeah, is that gonna work? I don't think
You can complain about whatever you want, and I can call you an asshole. That's life.
it will somehow. So
I mean, it's also
it's
an
funny how
argument-
that door it only ever swings one way.
It really
and
does.
Starts to get a little bit tiresome after you've seen it about 600 times, you know?
Or when you're told like you're looking too deep into this movie that's made for women, and it's like, but if I had something
You're not looking deep enough. You're completely missing the points.
positive to
You're
say,
writing them off immediately because it's feminist, and you're like, fuck that. That's the piece you're missing about the movie, is the thing you're absolutely denying to look at and consider. Rageology says it's about revenge is such a weird thing that it's applied to so many things read as progressive. I read a review of a local, to me, exhibition of historic and modern art from Northwest Canadian Indigenous groups by major centrist magazines here in the UK that used the same thing. Something like, move over, white European artists, Indigenous artists get their revenge, and it's like, no. Fenekagami, excuse me, says these motherfuckers just pretended Gamergate never happened.
about it. It's totally fine that I'm analyzing it like I am.
Oh,
I
really?
would find that hilarious.
People like this are the afterbirth of Gamergate.
I think that's really condescending to women. It's like, don't look too deep in the movie for women.
Gamergate was already awful.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fine, I guess.
It is.
The argument is always, because this is always what happens, right? When you make a valid point about something and they don't want you to make it, they'll be like, well, why do you care so much?
Oh my god.
Why? Why'd you care? It's like, well, we got...
No, I understand why you care, because it's getting feminist messaging out really efficiently in huge numbers, and I'm sure that pisses you off. I'm glad it pisses you off. That's fun for me.
what we wanted, so now that you're starting to question it, why do you care? It's always like that. But it's like, if it's something
I
that
don't need to ask why you care. I know why you care, and your reason is shitty.
they want, they're happy to question it all.
Dr. Gamble says, also, revenge implies that there was a wrongdoing, so are they admitting that they're doing wrong to women? I think in their head they think, it used to be bad for women, but everything's great now. And they think, in fact, we've overcompensated, now women have more power, is probably the dumb thing that they would say.
All day long and complain about it. They care if it's something that they want to get done. But when you're questioning something that they've achieved or some battle that they've won, it's always, why do you care so much? It's like, well, you care. You cared enough to try and get this movie made and support it and stuff. Okay? We're entitled to criticize it too.
I've seen different people there's loads of arguments over this film about which parts are serious, which parts are jokes, which parts are satire, which parts are trying to make fun of blah blah blah. And like, the speech she gives that ends with her saying Barbie is fascist. Like, a lot of people, I think, have concluded, like, that's obviously she's just trying to rile Barbie up. None of that's actually like anything the film is trying to make a point about. So I think like Jay Longbone was looking at
It's not necessarily. It's a joke, and it's giving a voice to certain real-world criticisms that have existed about Barbie, which the film, again, addresses later, and it's like you don't remember that it was addressed in the speech America Ferrera gave. Gnome Pickle says, why do you care? A question I got asked a whole lot when I made comments about the women in fridges trope, or when I made mention that trans characters are often played by cis actors. Fenekagami says, they are the afterbirth of Gamergate, since this is basically Gamergate 2.0. Thankfully, it feels like it's starting to burn out. I would hope, but, like, they still get views. Jeremy still gets views. Someone's watching this crap.
and to Greta Gerwig's points about the film, and even she was like, well, some points are made there that are pretty interesting, don't you think? It was just like,
they don't purposely, they can hide behind that satire, but we're seeing that word fascist come up a lot in entertainment.
The sentence hiding behind satire is so funny to me. Do you know what satire is? Satire is the opposite of hiding behind something. It's through humor saying exactly what you mean. Jonathan Swift wasn't hiding behind satire in A Modest Proposal. He was using entertaining humor in order to express his opinion clearly. Oh my god.
And that's not an accident. That's
Yeah.
not an
Barbie
actual-
fascist. I feel like we're
Batman and Barbie are fascist now.
yeah.
She
Yeah.
calls her a fascist right at the end of calling her everything else, like saying your body image is, you've had all these body image problems and blah 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 blah, and then she calls her a fascist. So if you're going to say that is satire, that's a joke, don't tack it on to what is clearly a very serious critique of Barbie.
Again, it is reflecting things that have been said about Barbie and some things that are, even valid discussions, but capping it off with fascist is definitely a joke about internet culture, internet debate culture, and how it seeps into the real world. That part's definitely a joke, and it's even the setup to a joke. I don't want to ruin the punchline because the punchline's quite funny, but calling her a fascist is also a setup to a joke that Barbie then has the punchline too, which is quite funny. So it is all part of jokes, yes. I don't know how to explain to you otherwise. I don't know how to explain to someone who doesn't get a joke how to get the joke.
I think we're facing the reverse issue of something that happens all the time, which is that someone says something so like fucking stupid, but that they believe in it, that we're all like, God, that could be parody and it'd be indistinguishable. And now people are seeing what they believe is parody because it's so stupid. This has to be parody. They're just like, guys, I think some of it is like legit.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? It's like when you desperately want to believe in the movie, you will look for reasons.
I think part of the problem too is that this is definitely a movie that wants to have a conversation with the audience. There are a lot of things it doesn't necessarily give definitive answers to, and the conclusion it kind of comes to is more or less like, hey, who's to say? Just be yourself. It's up to you to decide. But the movie is very much in conversation about topics of feminism, and there are different points of view expressed in the movie. It doesn't tell you necessarily which one is objectively right. It's just having a conversation with the audience about it. And I think they don't like that. I don't think they get that. I don't think they understand a movie that, sure, it definitely has concrete messages, but there are some things that are just like, hey, here are things that have been said about Barbie as a cultural icon. Here are different opinions from different characters. How do you, the audience, feel about it? They need it to be, what does it say? What is the movie saying objectively? And there are some things the movie says pretty objectively. Like I said, the conclusion it comes to seems to mostly be like, hey, life is fucking hard. Just love each other and be yourself. Which at the end of the day is a pretty basic-ass message. But there are a lot of conversations about feminism and gender roles in this movie, and they just will not engage with any of them. Hydrate. Will do.
Justify the most retarded choices that they made.
Woof.
In it, in order to say, well, it's not a stupid choice. It doesn't contradict the entire ethos of the film. It's subtle satire. It's poking fun at this or that or whatever. It's like, maybe it's not. Maybe the filmmakers are just fucking idiots, and this is not anywhere near as intelligent and multi-layered as you seem to think it is.
Juggle. Okay, next we're gonna go to the one that you've all been waiting for. The one that this is all for. Shapiro. Rachology says, as at least one of the panel claims to be a fan of Doctor Who, I'll let the fourth Doctor express my opinions of all of them.
You're a classic example of the inverse ratio between the size of the mouth and the size of the brain.
Okay. Here we go. Come on, Ben B. Let's go party. Oh, yeah.
I just got back from the theaters seeing Barbie.
Oh, I tweeted about this. He does basically... This is like a nostalgia critic Doug Walker level comedy bit. It's terrible. This is like a joke that wouldn't have even gotten a laugh like a decade ago on the internet. Why is he doing it?
Well, folks, I just got back from the theaters seeing Barbie and Oppenheimer. I'm about to review both of them. I'm going to tell you which...
We're going to watch the Barbie part because I have not seen Oppenheimer.
Which one of these is the best blockbuster of 2023 and which one is maybe the worst?
I bet he loved our...
Oh, maybe it's both at the same time.
Right, Ken?
Compare, contrast.
For those of you who can't wait that long, I'm going to give my review of the Barbie movie in the most Oppenheimer fashion.
What the Run.
So the things I do for my audience, my producers dragged me to go see Barbie movie.
Yes, I'm sure your producers begged you and you didn't realize that a lot of people, including people like me, were gonna at least watch it to laugh at you. Come on.
Barbie, the movie. And I have thoughts. This video is sponsored.
Wow, that's a first.
By ExpressVPN. Let me begin with my generalized assessment of the movie. This movie is not just a piece of shit. Movie is a flaming piece of dog piled atop an entire dumpster on fire, piled atop a landfill filled with dog. It is one of the worst.
Ben, you're a failed screenwriter. If you knew about good movies, you wouldn't have to do this grift for your job. You'd work in Hollywood like the rest of your family, except for Abby, who's trying to like do what you do, but worse.
Worst movies I've ever seen. On every possible level, it is a horrific movie. The only thing that
That's one of the most insane things I've ever heard, because like even if you didn't like the messaging of the movie for whatever reason, sorry, I'm trying to get this angle better. It's either too high or too low. Even if you didn't like the messaging of the movie, sorry, while I'm fixing this. Even if for whatever reason you didn't like the messaging of the movie, which would probably mean you're kind of an asshole. Or if you didn't like the way it's presented, but agreed that, like, hey, feminism isn't bad, that's fine. Why can't I get this to work? Sorry, I really am. I don't know why it's being so difficult today. It normally isn't this bad. God, that's terrible. What is going on with this? That's weird. There we go. Not perfect, but better. Good enough. I completely lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? That oh, yeah. Also, Ben, your company literally makes movies now, and none of them have been even a tenth of as successful as Barbie. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Gnome Pickle says, Hannah, you're making the computer play Ben Shapiro, and that panel, no wonder it's rebelling.
Be said for this film is production design. Production design is really nice.
Okay.
Costumes are really nice. Also,
I was gonna say, you gotta at least, even if you didn't like the movie for whatever reason, you gotta give it to him for the production design. Look at that, it's fucking beautiful. Fennikagami says, what's amazing to me is that these chuds almost make Doug Walker look like a poignant movie critic in comparison, and he's a chud too.
Really hard to screw that up. It's really hard to screw that up because you literally have this to model after. All you have to do is this, but big, okay? It's really not tough.
The idea that set design and composition is easy just because, if anything, I feel like it would make the task more difficult. Instead of building something original, you gotta be like, you gotta do this. And it has to look exactly like the tiny version of this, but big and plastic. But it can't really be plastic because plastic can't hold the weight of a full like building that we need for this scene. So it needs to look like it's plastic, but it's not real plastic. Like, come on, Ben. I'm not like someone who does sets for a living, but like the idea that it's easy is dumb.
But put aside all of the beautiful costumes, which is there for the ladies, and all of the
oh my god. Women be loving clothes, am I right? Fellow duderinos, doodleo dudes.
Production design and the Barbie universe and all of that. Every joke that happens in this film happens basically within the first 45 seconds of the film.
not even hyperbole. That's just objectively a lie.
So, for example, Barbie turns on the water and there's no water. Ooh, because, like in Barbie house, there's no actual water. Do you get it? And then she drinks, but there's no actual liquid in the actual cup. Oh my God, because she's a Barbie doll. Oh, I get it. Okay, that's all the jokes.
That is not all the jokes, chat. That is not all the jokes. There is a recurring joke where that comes up multiple times, like when she goes to the real world, there's a juxtaposition, because, oh, now there's real water and stuff in glasses. Oh. But yeah, that's how jokes work. There's sometimes setup and payoff.
There are no more jokes for the rest of the film. The movie's a show. Okay, so, conceptual.
You were there, so at least there was one joke in the theater. Rageology says, like Ben's wife during sex, I always find myself disassociating from reality whenever I hear Shapiro speak for more than about 30 seconds.
The movie...
It is world building. Like, it sets up the fact that this world literally works like Barbies. Like, they're Barbies that are being played with, basically, except they're sentient flesh beings. So yes, it's explaining something. But again, Ben is a failed screenwriter, so I don't think he knows how story works. He's even a Nepo baby. He's a Hollywood Nepo baby screenwriter, and he still couldn't make it. Imagine how bad you have to be for that.
He is a show. I want to ask this. Who is the intended audience for the film?
I would say anyone, generally women between the ages of 13 and up. Like, it's definitely not for little kids. I think a 13-year-old could see the movie. It's rated PG-13. I think that's pretty reasonable. There are some adult themes and there are adult jokes, but, if your kid's 13, they've heard some swear words, they've heard the word damn or whatever, they're familiar that sex exists, so some jokes about that isn't a big deal. Other ones might go over their head. I'd say 13 and up girls, mostly, and a lot of it's nostalgia-driven for people who played with Barbies. First Name Bunch of Numbers says, does anyone remember the time Ben wanted to look manly, so he went to Home Depot and bought one piece of wood and posted a photo of himself with it in a plastic bag? No idea why I'm thinking about that right now. That was so funny. Like, what did he even need it for anything? Did he just buy a piece of wood just 'cause? Ah, yes. Hello, fellow masculine individuals. I too have gone to Home Depot and purchased a processed piece of tree here in this shopping bag. Gnome Pickles says, considering how much Ben's identity is tied up in his doctor wife and the status as a Nepo baby, I think I get why Ben is so upset. Ben is literally Ken. I know it's a joke about the internet, but I seriously think he is the closest a human can get to the movie version of Ken. His job is beach? Briar Rose says, I mean, judging by his writing in True Allegiance, no, he doesn't know how any writing works. It's painful. Ken's job is beach, and Ben's job is to bitch about things that he doesn't understand.
Who's the intended audience for this film? So I'll tell you who the intended audience for this film is, and I can tell two ways. One, the previews on the film, and two, the people in the audience. So, the intended audience for this film is moms and their 8-year-old daughters.
Again, the movie's rated PG-13. So no.
That's the intended audience for the film. I know because the preview...
Maybe moms and their 13-year-old daughters. Sure.
For the film were all kids.
Even moms and their, 11, 12-year-old daughters. I don't think there's anything in there that's so crazy. It's... I think that would be fine. I think it would be fine. And if you did bring an 8-year-old, they're not going to get the jokes that are inappropriate for them, most likely.
Movies. I'm talking like G or PG rated kids films. We're talking like...
No?
Like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Trolls 4 or whatever it is. Those were all the previews, right? All the
I don't know if I agree with that. And also, you can look at the rating of the movie. It's not a secret. It's PG-13.
Previews are actually directed at what the audience is supposed to be for this film. And if you look in the audience, it's a bunch of moms, like youngish moms, middle-aged moms, with their 6, 7, 8-year-old girls.
When we went to go see it, and I know this is anecdotal, but I assume he's being anecdotal here too. So, in my theater, there were a lot of adult women, I saw a decent number of women in like their 20s. I saw a few families, but mostly no. It was people my age and up, or in their 20s, mostly. Elminato says, damn, I thought he meant to Real Trolls 4.
That's the entire crew. This movie is not made for any of those people. In fact, this movie is made for no one. This movie is going to make a
This movie is made for no one. That's why it's going to make so much money.
bunch of money week one because the marketing effort has been extraordinary. I mean, whoever's the marketing team over at Warner Brothers is doing an amazing job. Week one, this thing is going to clean up at the domestic box office. My prediction is going to just absolutely fall off a cliff after that.
It's still doing well this weekend. This is weekend 2, and it still did well throughout the week.
Business on this movie.
So he was wrong. Surprise! Ben Shapiro doesn't understand what audiences want in a movie. It's almost like he's a failed screenwriter. Fucking crazy. Wet Suckle, thanks for 9 months. This stream baby's name is going to be Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro.
Movie is going to be non-existent because it was written by two people who are so smug and self-satisfied, and Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, that they have no audience. I mean, like...
They have no audience? What? Have you fucking seen Little Women? Didn't Little Women win a fucking Oscar? Or at least it was nominated. What are you doing? And I'm not saying that, like, an Oscar is, like, you know, whether or not a movie's good. Fuck, I think Crash won Best Picture, which was a terrible choice. The Oscars make mistakes all the time. But have you seen Little Women? Like, it's a good-ass adaptation, and it's a great movie. Like, even if you don't like the writing in Barbie, the directing is good. Like, there are some shots in it where it's like, oh, that's really nice. And the way that she chose to shoot the Barbie land is, like, great. Like, the idea that, like, she is a bad filmmaker is crazy. If you disagree with the statements in the movie, if you're anti-feminist piece of shit, whatever, you know? But you can't say she didn't do a good job directing the movie. Come on now.
Who thought it's a great idea? Let's bring on the people who wrote Lady Bird and Marriage Story to make a movie about a plastic doll.
I actually haven't seen Marriage Story yet. He also didn't mention Little Women. Interesting.
That is generally played with by 5 to 9-year-old young...
Yes, it's played by 5 to 9-year-old girls since the 1950s, Ben. Little girls, because of how linear time works, grow into older girls and then women. And all of those women remember playing with Barbies, and then perhaps many of them remember their kids, their daughters, then having Barbies.
Girls.
Minty Treasure says, Daily Wire financed Terror on the Prairie. It made $804. Not $804 million, not $804,000, $804. Talk about a movie made for no one. There's actually a reason for that. The reason was, I believe, for some sort of... I don't remember if it was for, like, a tax benefit or something. It was some technicality. It wasn't a wide release. For some technicality reason, they had to release Terror on the Prairie in at least, like, 2 theaters or something. So it was only released in, like, 2 or 3 theaters. It was very few. And it was only to service some contractual obligation. I don't know if it's because they got tax credits and it had to be a theatrical film, and maybe that was defined by, like, being in X number of theaters. But anyway, I just want to point that out when people bring that up, because I think it's fair to point out when criticism is kind of misrepresented in what actually happened. Don't get me wrong, it's a dog shit movie. But... just to be clear, it's a little more complicated than just, it only made $800.
So the basic idea of the film, they really have no basic idea of the film. They don't know whether they hate Barbie or that we're supposed to kind of like Barbie.
Man, can you imagine a movie that expresses multiple points of view and then you as the viewer have to make decisions like a human being? That's fucking crazy. I swear to God, if these people watched a David Lynch film, their heads would explode like in Scanners.
It seems they kind of despise Barbie as a fascist emblem, as we'll get to. The basic sort of premise of the film, politically speaking, is that men and women are on 2 sides of the divide, and they hate each other. And literally the only way you can have a happy world is if the women ignore the men and the men ignore the women.
Do you think that the Barbie land at the beginning of the movie is supposed to be like, yep, this is it, this is perfect? No, throughout the movie they express that that's not how it should be, and that's the ultimate lesson that Barbie and the Kens learn.
That seems to be the final outcome of this film. I was trying to separate this into problems with plot and problems with character and problems with the politics of the film, but they're all intertwined because the thing is just a mess. It doesn't make any sense. Plot-wise, it makes no sense. Character-wise, it makes no sense.
You not understanding something doesn't mean it doesn't make sense, Ben.
So let's just go through it from the beginning. Okay, there's gonna be lots of spoilers, but believe
We gotta watch it, chat. So I guess if you don't want spoilers, this is probably the time to jump out. I will say the movie I think is good, spoilers or no. But if he's gonna get into spoilers, we're watching this. So just letting everyone know, I'll give you a few seconds. If you're jumping off, I understand. Rageology says, I love how it's, who knows how the international market is going to take this. My guy, firstly, American culture is quite popular worldwide. Secondly, the American film industry itself is stuffed with non-US talent whose sensibilities affect the movies made. Thirdly, no expensive film gets made without it being planned with an international audience in mind, so it'll probably do fine. And Dr. Gamble says if they play Stanley's Parable, they would stand in the rooms with the two doors land and say it's too confusing.
you me. I'm about to save you so much time because this movie is 2 hours. It feels like it is longer than the Wagnerian Ring Cycle.
I don't think it is. I don't think it feels long, honestly. I was actually felt it was refreshing because so many movies these days are pushing it towards 3 hours and it is just so unnecessary for most movies. Doodle Stargazer says his argument has a name in debate parlance, the argument from personal incredulity, which means I can't understand it, therefore it's wrong and or not comprehensible to anyone. Yeah, I see Chris do that a lot. CC, the flat earther guy.
It does not end. Every scene is at least 2 minutes too long. Every single scene, every beat is 2 minutes too long. It is a
There are scenes that don't even last 2 minutes. What are you talking about?
bad film. Put aside the politics. Like, really. I was sitting there with a bunch of my producers. I'm a little bit more political than my producers.
What?
My producers were watching this, putting the politics aside. It is a bad movie.
No. Not for a fucking second do I believe that, Ben. No one on your show who is a fucking producer for your show doesn't share your dog shit fucking views. What an insane statement to make. Yeah, Ben, I'm sure you got a bunch of random lefties on producing your show. That makes a ton of sense. Have you seen the plastic feminism of Barbie video essay? No.
So why is it getting 91% on Rotten Tomatoes? Because the way that it works for the reviewers is if you have the right politics, and those
No, it's actually just like a movie that a lot of people liked. That's one of the reasons it's making a lot of money. Like, the audience score is also high for Barbie.
Politics are sufficiently slyly inserted, then it will get a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, even if the thing is just dreck. And I mean...
It's not. It's a good movie. Like, unironically, even if you don't like Barbie, I would say you'd probably find this movie funny. Like, it's just a generally pretty funny movie.
Boy, is this dreck. This is a Death Star-sized piece of dreck. It is like, that's no moon. That's a dreck station. That is... that
You can say shit on the internet, Ben.
At this movie. Okay, so let's jump into it. I have, like, pages...
Narrator from the Stanley Parable watching this review.
Funny. And pages of notes on this horrific piece of I mean, my goodness. Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. So it's from the beginning, you know what this movie is going to be, and it's going to be a very cynical take on what Barbie is, which is so weird. I don't know why Mattel would...
The movie literally criticizes cynical takes. Again, like, as I stated, the movie expresses the points of view from different positions about Barbie. What are you talking about?
Turn over its IP to filmmakers who clearly hate the IP. It's as though you were going to make Toy Story, except that toys are all evil. They're all bad, and you're supposed to hate them, and you should burn them. Because that's kind of the message of the film, is that the Barbies are bad for the world. Okay, so...
No, it's not! Oh my god! He doesn't understand the movie at all!
It begins by trying to uphold the original vision of Barbie. What was the original magical vision of Barbie? We have Helen Mirren here to tell us, in the form of a narrator apparently played by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who's speaking from heaven. And that we get a 2001: A Space Odyssey flashback. Which again, who's the audience for this? Like the reference points in this film,
Wait, do you not understand that even if you haven't seen 2001: A Space Odyssey, that the, like, tableau of the obelisk is, like, baked into pop culture? Like, even if you haven't seen that movie, you know that scene from something, probably. And also, do you think women haven't seen 2001: A Space Odyssey? What? Fenekagami says, you know what this is? Ben's not only grifting, he's desperate to keep his audience from seeing this movie. It's so blunt and direct with feminism that he's afraid some of his audience will wake up to the fact that their pundits lie to them. That would be nice. I think you're giving him too much credit, though, if I'm being honest.
References variously Marcel Proust. It references Robert Evans and the cinematography of The Godfather.
Yes, the cinematography of The Godfather joke is a joke about, like, cinema bros, like film bros. That's part of the joke.
It references...
Like, do you just think women are fucking idiots? Like, what is this? What are all these references? Who are these for? Women don't understand references. Fucking what?
2001: A Space Odyssey. This is a movie made for moms and their 7-year-old girls. Well, folks, wasting 2 hours of my precious time, 2 hours I will never get back, 2 hours where on my deathbed I will wish that I had not spent that time doing, makes me viscerally angry. But I'm going to talk to you about something that
I hope that is how you spend your last hours.
It makes me much happier, and that is our trusted privacy partner and premier sponsor of the show, ExpressVPN. But not in the case of ExpressVPN.
Is that the VPN that got caught, like, doing shit to people's computers? Like putting spyware or whatever? I'm not saying it is, I'm asking.
It starts with Helen Mirren explaining that back in the day, girls would only play with dolls that looked like babies. And
a bit of an oversimplification. Paper dolls definitely existed, and, like, fashion dolls existed, and, like, the, you know, the cutouts, you know? I'm sure you've seen the paper dolls and stuff. But yes, broadly, Barbie was the first popular, like, non-baby doll that was mass-produced and marketed. Fenekagami says it doesn't matter if that fear is true. Conservatives are paranoid by nature, so their fears are reality to them regardless of actual reality.
And then she says that this could be fun, at least for a while anyway. Ask your mother, because your mother actually hates you and doesn't like being a mom these days.
Ben, you're a dad. Do you never get a little annoyed? Like, do you never, like, go like, every parent gets overwhelmed sometimes. It's fine to admit that. And it's also fine to have a sense of humor about the stresses of being a parent, and that's what it was doing.
So if you ask your mom, she wants to play at not being a mom sometimes. Okay, so the basic premise...
Ben, do you think that's not true? Ben, do you think your mom only identifies as your mom and not as an individual human being? Oh my god. Holy shit. Forrest Espion says right-wing chuds would pee themselves if they saw this. Oh god, what is it?
A candy-colored clown they call the sun.
Oh, I can't play this. I'll have to cut out so many things. And also, some of those shots probably aren't TOS friendly, especially the stuff from Eraserhead. Like that, the baby in Eraserhead, if you want to even call it a baby, I don't know if that's TOS on any website. But I agree, yes.
Barbie is supposed to be the independent woman who liberates all womanhood, but she failed.
Right, that is an interpretation, an overly simplified interpretation, correct, which initially Barbie holds herself, which is then confronted with opposing views.
And she fails for two reasons. One, she's actually a tool of the patriarchal capitalist system.
Rageology says, wow, are you telling me that a movie based on a 70-year-old pop culture icon that's reflecting on history and legacy is using pop culture references from throughout that long history that left a legacy? Shocking.
And two, the real world has rejected the message of Barbie, which is that women should run everything. Okay, so this is all not implicit. This is
Ben, you dumb bitch! That's not the message of the movie, you stupid slut!
Explicitly said. At the beginning, the monologue, you have Helen Mirren saying, because Barbie can be anything, women can be anything. At least that's what the Barbies think. See, in the real world, women can't be anything. And that's one of the messages of the film. In the
yes.
real world,
Ben, do you think that women don't face any difficulties in life because of their gender?
Men run pretty much everything, which is weird. Who greenlit this piece of shit? I mean, Greta Gerwig is a lady. She's making a good living off of this. Margot Robbie is playing the lead.
Okay, Ben, let's look at the field of Hollywood directors and how many are women that get put behind the helm of a large project like this with like a over $100 million budget. How many male directors versus female directors are put in charge of $100+ million budget films? Stop being so obtuse.
In fact, the entire cast, aside from basically Ryan Gosling, is women. So, it seems like women are doing okay.
This one particular movie about women, made by a woman, proves that women are fine everywhere. This is the film equivalent of that idiot who brought a snowball into Congress and was like, global warming isn't real, look, snow! I'm not hungry right now, so actually, hunger in general isn't true. No one is starving, because I'm not hungry right now.
But, again, put aside the meta logic of it. I'm gonna go through, like, a lot of beats here.
There were so many Kens in the movie. What? He doesn't consider them men, I would imagine.
So it starts off with the idea that mommy dolls are bad and insufficient. But then they criticize Mattel for discontinuing.
They literally in the movie say that can be fun, but that shouldn't be the only thing. The movie literally says it's perfectly fine to just want to be a mother and just stay at home. The movie says that with words. But they also say people shouldn't only be that. They should be what they want to be.
Continuing a mommy doll named Midge. Right? Midge is the pregnant doll, and it was discontinued. They're like, that's bad.
I don't think they were saying that's bad. Did they say that's bad? I don't remember that in the movie at all. She was one of the punchline Barbies.
But hold on, you just said that...
Do I think that Ben purposely makes super dumb statements that he doesn't really think because he knows his audience will think them? I don't know. My read on Ben has generally been that he really is just a stupid Nepo baby with no concept of how the real world works. So he really, like, doesn't know, and he thinks he's a smug asshole who, like, thinks he knows everything, but he really doesn't know what real life is like. So he comes to erroneous conclusions. So, I don't know. I've always been on the side of Team Dumbass.
That dolls about motherhood are bad, but then this one, don't look for any sort of logical coherence. There is a Citizens United reference.
I would not recommend that, Ben try and do that. He'll be waiting all day.
They say all of the members of the Barbie Supreme Court are women. And then they are speaking out about Citizens United, that corporations are not people. It's literally a Citizens United reference.
Yes, correct?
Who is the 7-year-old girl who's like, yes, I too have a...
The movie is rated PG-13, Ben! The audience was mostly adults that I went to go see it, you stupid asshole! Rageology says, is it one of the pillars of this guy's entire political ideology? That women are by nature limited by being women and that's proper and right, and he campaigns to keep it that way? Yep. He and his sister both promote trad wife shit as if that's, like, ideal and anything else is bad. Or feminist propaganda.
A very informed perspective on the Citizens United decision. And then they say that logic and feeling at the same time, it doesn't diminish us. It proves that we are more than, right? It says,
did you absorb any of that, Ben?
Oh, propagandistic. And,
it's propagandistic to push back against this idea that men have, that emotionality is inherently antithetical to a logical argument. Not even gonna address it, just gonna call it propaganda and move on. What an intellectually honest man Ben Shapiro is.
Then it sets up the dichotomy. The dichotomy is that men and women are in complete and utter contradistinction in terms of their roles. So women only exist if they are completely free of men, and men only exist if they are completely free of women. And the problem...
No. The movie does not say that how the world of Barbie Land is at the beginning is how it should be, which we see at the end. You see, Ben, as a former screenwriter, you would think that you would know that there are generally arcs to this kind of thing. Even I don't believe he doesn't understand this. This I think he's lying about, in my opinion.
Problem for Ken, the problem is set up for Ken, is that Ken is dependent on Barbie, right? Because Ken is kind of secondary.
Once again, he's not understanding it's literally a commentary on love interests in movies historically. Usually it's a woman character whose entire character is based around the existence of the protagonist, the man character. And their entire arc is often surrounded by that. That's the point! It's a role reversal! That's the joke! That's the point! That's the commentary!
And we also set up at the very beginning that Barbie doesn't like Ken. She finds Ken annoying. She finds Ken ridiculous, which, again, is sort of against the concept of Ken and Barbie.
Is it?
But the
Also, they're all named Ken, so there are many Kens. She just isn't romantically interested in this particular Ken. She doesn't hate him. She just doesn't want to fuck him, or whatever the Barbie equivalent of that is. Forrest Espion says, LOL, Ben is gonna so badly misrepresent the Barbie movie, I'm not even worried about spoilers.
the basic idea is that Barbie is an independent woman and Ken is completely superfluous. We then go to the beach, and there is a scene on the beach where the Kens are supposed to be the lifeguards, and the ladies are playing on the beach, and we...
Oh my god, literally Ken's job is beach, not lifeguard. There is a lifeguard, but no, all the Kens are not lifeguards. What movie did he watch? Rageology says, how much do you think this all designed... How much do you think this all designed for people who are never going to see the movie and just want talking points to dunk on it, so he's deliberately misrepresents? That could be part of it, for sure.
We get a series of gay masturbation jokes. Again, as an audience.
Yeah.
For children.
Okay. Do you think that movies don't make jokes for adult... Holy shit, has he seen Shrek? Has he seen Shrek? The villain in Shrek's name is Lord Farquaad. Fuckwad. There are adult jokes in kids' movies all the time, and I remind you, this movie is rated PG-13. This movie is rated PG-13. God damn. Profane Priestess says, Ben, I'm literally an anarchist. Would you like to know why my self-insert D&D character is, or who? A pacifist who literally fits into a white magician girl trope healing magic. Check. Team mom. Check. Has a stereotypical masculine love interest. Check. Traditionally attractive. Check. It's fine if you want to conform to traditional femininity. The point of feminism is that you don't have to. How is he this willfully ignorant? It drives me crazy. Because it's the only way you can have any sort of argument. Dishonest arguments are the only ones they have.
Talking about beaching each other off, right? There's
You delivered it terribly, Ben. Meek says, I feel like 20% of Bensel's problems with this movie can be answered by saying it's PG-13, Ben. Yeah. I thought you were about personal responsibility. Is it not the job of parents to look at the rating of a movie and determine if they want their kids to see it? Also, I don't know if you know this. If you want, you can exit a movie at any time and go to the front and get your money back if you don't want your kid to see it. This is a joke in one of the most popular kids' IPs of all time.
Look, doubloons! Don't drop them.
The idea that, like, there haven't been jokes like that forever is so crazy.
A line where Ken says to another one of the Kens, I'm going to beat you off. Get it? Get it? You get it? Because it's like beat you off, but beat you off. And then they repeat.
Yes, that's funny to most people.
Repeat that.
Oops.
No.
Sorry. Trying to find a place to make it so I have these out of the way, but they're in.
No less than 4 or 5 times in the span of 45 seconds.
If I wasn't severely injured, I would beat you off right now, Ken. I'll beat you off.
Ben, as a former failed screenwriter, you should know that repetition is a tool in comedy. I don't know if you know that, but repetition is literally a common trope in humor.
You any day, Ken.
Anyone who wants to beach him off has to beach me off first.
I will beach both of you off at the same time.
Beach both of us off.
Nobody's gonna beach anyone off.
Bazinga. Jesus.
Such a great gay masturbation joke. You got to go for it. I mean, what else will the 7-year-old girls in the audience think if you don't go for the gay masturbation joke on the beach? Clearly. We get black female President Barbie because this is, of course, the greatest of all possible worlds. So Kamala Harris, the Barbie version, is the president of the...
Ben, do you understand how offensive what you just said is? You basically implied, oh, look, a non-white person in power. This must be representative of one specific politician that doesn't even look like this person at all. What the fuck? Like, I don't even think he knew what he just did. I think he legitimately doesn't understand that that wasn't a stand-in for Kamala Harris. I think he just thinks, oh, I see a non-white person. Oh my god. Rageology says, well, that's just racist. Yep.
United States. And then we get the break, right? Then we get the actual plot point. Plot point number 1. Barbie has irrepressible thoughts of death. So again, at this point, you might be thinking to yourself, wait a second, isn't this a kid's movie?
It's rated PG-13. No.
Isn't this supposed to be made for 7-year-old girls?
No, it's not. They didn't say it was.
Nope. It's about existential angst over mortality. That's what this film is about.
It's one of the things
again,
it's about,
interlaced through all of this is just more and more and more.
I'd say it's more about purpose, but yes, mortality definitely plays into it.
Politics, right? One of the Barbies is a trans Barbie, and this is treated totally normally, as though this is a female Barbie, with a voice, again, deeper than my own.
Not difficult.
So Barbie starts to have these irrepressible thoughts.
Again, like, in his head, does he think, like, when I go out or hang out with people, they're like, oh my god, a trans person? That doesn't get pointed out, Ben. That's not how the world works. Most people don't feel the need to be like, oh my god, that person self-identifies differently than me. Oh my god. Like, people just generally don't really give a shit. And either way, in the movie, none of the Barbies have genitals. They make that very clear. So diegetically within the movie, I don't even know if you can really say the Barbie's definitely trans, for whatever that would mean for a Barbie. I don't know. Just weird. Weird that you're bringing it up, honestly. Cassifel says, Ben, the Barbie movie was made for me specifically. Me. I am the person Barbie was made for. Literally, just me. Shut up, Ben. Also, Ben has so much dysphoria over his voice he projects so hard.
To death. And this comes along with physical symptoms, like, for example, her feet flatten out. Again, this is one of the few cute jokes in the movie, is that Barbie walks around, and just like a normal Barbie doll, when you take off the shoes, the feet are shaped like the shoe, like the high heel. But now, she is turning into like a real-world person, and so her feet collapse, right? And so she goes to see Weird Barbie. So Weird Barbie is a Barbie that has been played with too hard and has all the knowledge, not only about Barbie Land, but also about the real world. And apparently there's a connection between the people playing with the Barbies and the Barbies. So if the people playing with the Barbies are sad, then the Barbies also get sad. Weird that this has only happened to Barbie, because it turns out that lots of people are sad and have played with Barbies for a very long time. But
literally, they say it isn't the first time. Happened to Skipper, they say. But also, like, the movie, like I said in the previous review we watched, hand waves it. They make it clear that it doesn't really matter. That's not the point of the movie, isn't to dissect it for specific internal logic of how the magic works. It's a plot device, Ben.
That's the plot point. Fine. And again, the concept of like a Barbie that was played with too hard is very funny, because everybody has seen that before. And they somehow blow this. Somehow they make this into a not funny thing. So Weird Barbie...
I assume he doesn't like this because she's kind of a stand-in for... Like a feminist, you know, she's a stand-in for, like, a feminist who's kind of been there, you know? And wants to explain feminism to the other... She understands what it's like to be an outsider, let's say. You know? And that's represented by her kind of offbeat hairstyle and stuff, especially later in the movie. It's very punk meets Barbie, you know? So I assume that's why he didn't like her.
Barbie is ugly, and...
She's like a nonconformist. This is what she looks like early in the movie. Later, she looks punk.
she has bad makeup and all the rest of it. And she informs Barbie she has to go to the real world and she has to find the person who is playing with her and she has to make that person feel better because that will heal the problem that she's having in Barbie Land. Okay, so we have our plot point, right? We have the thing that's going to launch us off into the rest of the movie.
Oh my god, is Ben literally not going to understand that movies can start with one goal and then things can change throughout the movie? Also, she does that anyway, so...
And then it's just a complete mess from here on in. At least to this point, it's...
Marcus Drake, thanks for 27 months, says, forgot my last two sub-babies, but I'll always remember the first, little Joseph Stalin. This sub-baby's name is gonna be... Glenn Faraway.
It's kind of dumb but coherent. From here on in, it makes no sense at all. Again, Kate McKinnon sets up the dichotomy that pretty much the makers of the film hate Barbie by suggesting that you can live in fantasy
Oh my god, he has no media literacy.
land with Barbie and you can take the Barbie shoe or you can take Birkenstocks, right? You can become like a Portland lesbian and you can learn about reality. That's going to be the choice that you have to make. But not before she makes a joke about Ken and wanting to see the nude blob he is packing under those pants.
Somebody said that?
Perfect for 8-year-old girls, ladies.
The movie is rated PG-13, Ben. Dr. Gamble says, Ben, you know the legendary Mr. Rogers talked about assassination and death on his show, right? I don't understand why you're so scared to talk about mortality and feel the need to shield kids from something that happens all the time in the world. It's like hiding the goldfish from the kid and then telling them, and then they think fish live forever.
Mothers, just be warned. Ken and Barbie head off to the real world to try to find the person who is playing with Barbie. And immediately, upon arriving in the real world, Barbie is hit with an overwhelming tsunami of sexism. Like, right away, boom! She walks in.
It's a movie, Ben. Did you want him to have the movie be weeks and weeks long and have her go through weeks of microaggressions before she figures it out? It's a movie. You have to condense things. You fucking idiot.
And a bunch of men just leer at her and say, give us...
And then Marty McFly goes to Hill Valley and he immediately runs into his dad in the diner. That's not very likely, is it? Yeah, it's a movie. It's a movie. You kind of condense things down and things happen so the plot can move. That's how movies work, Ben.
Us a smile, Blondie, which is something that no one under the age of 70 has said to a woman in the recent past.
Fucking objectively untrue.
Give us a smile, Blondie? Seriously? We get Barbie explaining that all of the men who are leering at her and gazing at her, they have an undertone of violence. Everything's she's threatened. She's physically threatened because this is the real world.
If they do make a Barbie sequel, since this Ben Barbie review has gotten so memed, can we get like a Ken that's supposed to be a stand-in for Ben Shapiro or like a Ben Shapiro stand-in and they make fun of that? That'd be pretty funny. I don't think there needs to be or should be a Barbie sequel necessarily. I'm just saying if you do, take the opportunity, you know?
The real world is not like Barbie Land. In the real world, all women are victims. They are deep and abiding victims of the system, as we'll learn.
Yeah.
By the use of the word patriarchy no less than 10 times in this film. She gets arrested.
Wow, 10 times in a 2-hour film. That must have been very taxing on you, Ben.
Like twice for various crimes. Even the police officers are rabid, raging sexists. The police officers...
Oh my god. Police officers, men who are police officers not respecting women and sexualizing them? Can you imagine? Ben. Really? Ben doesn't realize it all. The whole point is it's supposed to be super jarring and over the top because Barbie is coming from a place where that's never happened, so any kind of male gaze for Barbie is extreme. Gnome Pickle says, hey Ben, there's a video where a woman films a 1-hour walk through a city and you'd be shocked at what is said to her. Yeah, I've seen that video.
Officers are hitting on Barbie. They're making observations about her appearance. Ken, meanwhile, is getting super happy because Ken, who's been sort of an underling in Barbie Land, now he's realizing he's part of the patriarchy, and the patriarchy is awesome. Ken is loving the patriarchy. Now, you might imagine at this point that the way the film is going to go is that Ken and Barbie are going to have to some sort of agreement about seeing each other as equal human beings.
They do. They do. That's the end of the movie, but as I said, it's represented through incremental change because that's how it has happened in real life for women and continues to happen. Cassifel says, Ben is what happens when somebody takes cinema sins directly as truth. It's so insanely clear why he failed as a screenwriter. I bet every script he wrote had at least one page which made it super clear that the world is perfectly logical and makes perfect super sense. He's the type who complains that they didn't call the cops in Scream. God, I hate this boring, shallow, stupid, ignorant, tiny, pathetic, hollow, unimaginative, sexist, racist, idiot man.
You might imagine that's where it's going. Wrong. That's not where the film is going to go. You might.
It is. He just didn't understand it.
have thought that what you were going to get was Ken gets treated with respect as a person, and Barbie gets treated with respect as a person.
Yep.
And that's a better. Nope. Wrong. In the end, not to skip ahead, Barbie Land just gets restored, and the men are still subservient. That's the best.
Literally, they fucking explain that no, they're gonna start letting Kens have positions of power, but then they say maybe not the Supreme Court yet. Because that's the joke and observation, is that in real life, even when feminism has made gains, the struggle isn't over. It's incremental. That's the observation, Ben. God fucking damn it.
That's the best version of the world. Okay, so Ken is walking around and he's really enjoying the patriarchy and all of this. And he explains that men rule this world. And he goes to Mattel, and all the members of the board are men. By the way, I'd like to see a corporate breakdown of the Mattel board. I'll bet.
Okay, let's take a look. Mattel Board of Directors. They have pictures. It's actually about 50-50. So that's pretty good.
But I'll bet I can find it. Like the CEO of Mattel for 30 years was a woman. So there's...
Yeah, and the movie acknowledges that. They literally say that. She's in the movie as a character.
That. They pretend that, like, Mattel is all run by men. So I just... Now I want to know.
Ben, do you understand what commentary is? Do you get it? Do you get the point they're trying to make, Ben? Things you see in movies, especially satire, don't have to be literally true. The point that is being made is that corporate culture is overwhelmingly male-dominated, which is still true. And the CEO, I believe, is still a man right now. Either way, whatever. But the point it's making is true. It'd be like if I said... It'd be like criticizing, again, going back to, like, Jonathan Swift's A Modest Proposal. Imagine if a criticism of that was something along the lines of, he's so stupid, rich people don't want to eat babies. Yeah, satire uses hyperbolic, extreme examples of behavior and takes current behaviors and takes them to an extreme to make a point. That's the point. That's how satire works. Good God, Ben.
You know, who's on the board? Okay, chairman and CEO is a dude. The board includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It includes 5 women. So it's 6 men and 5 women. Clearly patriarchal domination. Clearly patriarchal domination. Just wanted to look that up just for the sake of, you know, accuracy. Whenever I do these reviews, like, oh, you're taking the movie too seriously. The movie takes itself too seriously, guys. It pretends to be a comedy, but it's taking itself super seriously. Fine.
It is a comedy.
So, it's all men at the...
That's an interesting idea, too. Does he think you can't have a comedy that has some sort of central message? Because that's actually funny. You guys know I own a ton of movies. I have 2 categories for comedies. My subcategories for comedies that are in different parts of the shelf are just farcical bullshit comedies that aren't really trying to say anything. And then the other side is comedies that have some sort of thing they're saying, a more direct satire or something. Something like, I'm sorry for, what's that movie, dang it, with the call center and the code switching. I'm sorry for bothering you. I'm sorry for, something like that. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. There are movies that are trying to say something, and there are some movies that are more just farcical. Sorry to bother you. That's the name of it. Thank you. the idea that a comedy can't have something to say is just like, have you seen movies, Ben? Have you seen movies?
The top of Mattel, and they realize that Barbie and Ken have escaped Barbie Land. And this presents some sort of threat. What kind of threat? Because the writers are shitty, they don't bother explaining. They're just like, a threat. And Will Ferrell acts all weird and goofy, like Will Ferrell. And he's funny because it's Will Ferrell acting weird and goofy. But he's not funny because it's just Will Ferrell with no actual plot or
as opposed to Step Brothers, which the plot was very important to. Not a series of a lot of gags strung together loosely with the plot. Oh my.
Dialogue to speak of just being weird. We'll fill that in later. There's so many places in the script where it's basically like the writers just, they left a gap and they're like, we'll leave a couple asterisks, we'll fill it in later, and then later they got there and they're like,
Ben, you don't have to explain every little thing in a fucking movie, you pedantic, pretentious fuck.
like, nah, we'll just skip right over it. Fine. So they figured they gotta track down Barbie and Ken. And meanwhile, Barbie is trying to track down the girl who's playing with her. And she mistakenly thinks that it is a teenage girl who is playing with her and who is unhappy. And at this point, she receives a lecture from the teenage girl about how Barbie has ruined the world and actually is fascist. How Barbie is a sexualized capitalistic emblem. How Barbie has created unattainable feminine ideals.
Again, which is echoing sentiments that have been made in the real world, which they address and talk about throughout the movie.
How Barbie is ruining the planet with rampant consumerism. You get like this full lecture right in the middle of the film. It's truly awful.
It's almost like it's intentionally over the top to make you laugh. Like a comedy.
Truly awful. She's called a fascist. By the way, it only sets up the only good line of the film. Truly.
Oh, he's probably gonna do this. Oh no, Ben Shapiro and I thought the same joke was funny. That's unfortunate.
In my opinion, there's one good line in the film, and that is where Barbie is trying to contemplate whether she's a fascist or not, and she says, I don't control the railways or the flow of commerce. Now, there's only one problem with that line.
Oh, he delivered that fucking terribly.
As with the entire movie, there is no character consistency. Barbie is supposed to be an idiot bubblehead piece of plastic.
Oh my god, you missed the whole point, you stupid asshole. No, she's not. That's the point. That's the point. The movie shows that, oh, that might be the stereotype that was applied to her at the beginning of the movie, but underlying that, she's much more, and she wants to be that more and not the stereotype. That's like the main, that's her arc. That is the protagonist's character arc, Ben. Oh my god! It would be like watching Legally Blonde and being like, it doesn't make any sense. She's so into pink and stupid. Why is she good at law school? Like, you fucking idiot, you missed the whole point.
From Barbie Land. How does she know what a fascist is? How does she know about the flow of commerce?
How does Barbie, a toy living in Barbie Land, know of 20th century political ideologies like fascism? I hope someone got fired for that blunder.
It's like, again, just in terms of character consistency, like characters who actually are the characters, makes no sense whatsoever. So, meanwhile, Ken is wandering around, enjoying the patriarchy more and more and more, and he keeps asking men about the patriarchy. And at one point, he asks a dude about the patriarchy, and the guy says, well, that's not really the way that it works here anymore. He says, really? He says, no, it still works that way. We just hide it really well. Again, you can't even present the mild other side of the film. And this sort of nonsense continues. The first third of the film is about how Mattel is kind of bad for creating this fancy land. Second third of the film is about the real world evils of the patriarchy. Oh, the patriarchy. Oh, the patriarchy. Culminating in an idiotic line where one of the low-level members of Mattel is with the board, and Barbie is looking for a woman at the board. And the low-level man says, I'm a man with no power. Does that make me a woman? No, you can't parallel park. That's what makes you a woman.
You're literally doing the thing, Ben. You're doing you're taking part in the thing the movie is criticizing. You're making the movie's point.
And in any case, we get here a few obscure jokes about Proust Barbie, because again, Noah Baumbach has to show that he wrote some of the script. He made a reference to Proust. Doesn't that make him clever? Ooh.
Marcus Drake says, okay, but if you want to be literal, I now imagine she knows what fascism is because Barbie Land previously had a fascist dictatorship, and that's a prequel I would watch.
He will make a reference, I would assume, to Victor Hugo. Wow! Proust! Woo! Idiots who think they're smart. It's total...
Irony.
Okay, then Barbie escapes the Mattel building. They were going to package her up and they were going to send her back to Barbie Land. And she instead runs and she escapes the Mattel building. And she hooks up with America Ferrera. So America Ferrera is the actual one who's playing with Barbie as a youth. And it's her daughter who Barbie had originally approached. Twist! Okay, and she decides that in order to escape the Mattel executives, she's going to have to bring both of them back to Barbie Land. Why does she bring both of them back to Barbie Land? No one knows.
For the plot of the movie, the reason in the movie is because she says she wants to try and make them happy. She's trying to make her feel better by taking her to Barbie Land.
There's no actual... There's no explanation as to why she's supposed to bring both of them back to Barbie Land. Supposedly, it's because she needs to escape back to Barbie Land, but she could do that without the two of them. But she decides she's going to bring them back. So she brings them back to Barbie Land. Meanwhile, the Mattel executives are chasing her. Now, question, why are they chasing her? They achieved their goal. Barbie's back in Barbie Land. Why are they still chasing her?
Because the set comes out that's like fucking... Well, again, what's it called? It's called like the Ken something, you know? Like... Something's going wrong in Barbie Land at this point in the movie, and that's reflecting in the real world. So Will Ferrell's character knows that, so they're going to Barbie Land to figure out what's going on.
No one knows. It doesn't make any sense. They literally say,
you don't know.
There will be consequences you can't even imagine. And then...
Again, like I said, the movie's pretty, like, meta. It's very aware of what it's doing, and you can say you don't like that. That's fine, but to act as though this is a mistake is just inaccurate. The holes that you were pointing out that are hand-waved by the movie weren't mistakes. If you don't like that, that's fine, but you're acting as though it was a mistake that they didn't think of. They address it in the movie and say, like, basically, it's a movie, it's a magical realism thing, go along with it. It's a very meta movie, and if you don't like that, again, that's fine. But then address it on that level and say, I don't like that. Don't just act as though it's a mistake, because it's not. It might just be something you don't particularly care for. Cassifel says, just want to say this to any writers who need to hear it. Your world doesn't need perfect internal logic. Your writing does not need to explain every little thing. You can literally just write. Let yourself write the story. Let yourself enjoy what you do, so long as the message you want to execute is clear. Seriously, it's not something wrong. Also, let your story have flaws. It's okay, I promise. Also, Ben is a fascinating case of how a mediocre man can be propped up for success. Especially if they're a Nepo baby like Ben.
They're like, what consequences? And they're like, fill in the blank. And some dude says something about a podcast with 2 trees. You're like, that's the laziest shitty writing. God. Okay, anyway. So Ken, in the meantime, he has already headed, while she was, futzing around over at Mattel, Ken has already headed back to to Barbie Land, where he has immediately established the patriarchy. So just to point out here, the point of the film is that the matriarchy is amazing.
No, it's not! That's not the point of the movie! Ah! He just straight up didn't get it. He straight up didn't get the plot and lesson and theme of a PG-13 film that he thinks is a children's film. And it still went over his head. Wow.
Women are amazing at everything. Ken walks in, and within 2 seconds, he has taken over all of Barbie Land. And he has turned it into the Kendom. Within 2 seconds. It's apparently...
Oh my god. This magical land where Barbie and Ken dolls are real and everything's made of plastic and they don't have to eat because it's magic. Ken took it over real quick, so that's not very realistic. Yeah, it's a movie, Pen. It's a movie about living dolls. It doesn't need to be realistic. They act like cartoon characters.
Apparently the women are so unbelievably competent.
Like, does he only... It's like he only understands, like... It's like people who don't understand not even abstract art. Like, it's like he doesn't understand the basics of storytelling in a non... It's like he can only perceive a movie in a very grounded world where every little thing like, needs to function like the real world. And if it doesn't, he doesn't consider it a choice about the world that the movie takes place in or the narrative. It's a flaw. It's weird, right? It would be like looking at a Jackson Pollock painting and being like, what is that supposed to be? That's not the point. You're missing the point, Ben. You're looking at these things as flaws, and they're not. They're just tools and devices used to get the movie and the plot moving, and it's very open about that being a very meta movie.
And brilliant and great at everything over in Barbie Land, that an idiot man walks in and takes over the whole place inside of 2 seconds. Fine, so he takes over the entire place. We later learn that's because the women, they didn't know what was coming. We later learn they didn't have immunity. And the way that they get immunity is by learning to hate the men.
Literally no. Once again, did you walk out on the movie before it ended?
That's the way. That they have to learn to hate the men. Okay, so Ken decides he's going to go back and he's going to establish his patriarchal system. We only learn this when Barbie heads back with America Ferrera and Random Daughter. And Ken immediately starts acting like the jerks in the patriarchy, right? He calls her baby. He calls her baby. The greatest of all insults, he calls her baby. And then America...
Yeah, maybe it's infantilizing and degrading, and people don't necessarily want that, Ben. Have you considered that that's something that you should make sure someone's cool with before you just say it? God damn, Purple Pondini, fuck. 10,000 bits! Oh my god. Thank you very much. That is incredibly generous of you. God damn. You just made my day. Thank you very much. Whew. Terradona says, Ben, see the movie again, then rewrite. Ben, F, see the movie again, then rewrite, rather.
Ferrera is trying to explain to Barbie.
Thank you very much for, again, goddamn Purple Pondini. The fact that you thought of me and were like, yes, I appreciate it.
What exactly is going on? And she's like, it's just like the indigenous people and smallpox. They had no immunity.
Oh shit, I skipped ahead, sorry.
They had no immunity. Howard Zinn wrote the script. So...
It's literally an explanation of what's happening, Ben.
The ladies in Barbie Land had no immunity to the magic of the patriarchy. The magic. Women were seduced into... So, just to point out here, the actual argument the movie is making is that if women enjoy men, it's because they have been brainwashed by the patriarchy.
Ben, they weren't enjoying men. They were literally dressed in maid outfits like this, serving them, and they had no agency. They weren't just happy being with the men. They were subservient and under them. The president literally became like a waitress, like at the beach, serving beers to people. Oh my god.
They make this message explicit in just a few minutes in the film. And when I say a few minutes, I mean several years, because this film took years off my life. It is long.
One can only hope.
It's boring and it's terrible. Okay, so the Kens are about to perform... None of this makes any damn sense. Okay, the Kens are about to have a vote to change the Constitution. Why? Why?
So that they're in charge. Ben, did you watch the movie?
Ken literally just sees power. He's a fascist. What the f*** is he gonna vote for? Why are they voting? Like
to make men in charge permanently. Again, did you watch? You took notes! Like, you literally took notes, and you're still getting things wrong!
He sees power. Also, what is the breakdown demographically of the Kens and the Barbies? Are there as many Kens as Barbies? Because why would they hold a vote? The Kens appear to be in a minority in Barbie Land. There are a lot more Barbies than Kens.
At this point, literally at this point, as far as the Kens know, the Barbies are on their side. But they want to enshrine it in law. The Barbies have been infected with this internalized misogyny. So the idea is that we're going to enshrine this, so no matter what, legally nothing can be done.
So if that's the case, why even do the democratic vote thing? Why not just seize the power? Because then you wouldn't have the rest of the...
Usually that is how seizing power works, Ben. Seizing power works, like... I know that I can't believe we're going here, but let's go here. Fuck it. Barbie movie, Godwin's Law discussion. When Hitler seized power, he didn't just do it and then was like, all right. They used the administrative state in order to enshrine and make sure no one could come at them legally, they made it all official, you know? Like, that's often how this kind of thing works. Takeovers are not usually, in this day and age, or in recent history, someone coming in and destroying the entire bureaucracy and creating a new one from scratch. It's usually people seizing power and then changing the institutions of power to favor them and enshrine their power so it becomes entrenched.
Dumb plot of this stupid film. So they decide they're going to hold the vote. And not only are they going to hold the vote, they're going to be very fair about it. They're going to hold it in 48 hours. They're going to hold it in a couple of days to make sure that the Barbies have time to actually form a counter plan. Why would they do that? No reason. Asterisk, asterisk, we'll fill it in later. Okay. So they decide they're going to hold this dumbass vote. And
like, Ben, even in the real world, it takes time to get elections set up.
The Barbies learn about this, and they're Barbie is very depressed because Barbie realizes that all the other Barbies have been taken in by the patriarchy, and this is extremely bad. Now, here's one place where you have a serious continuity error in the film. So,
continuity error, plot hole. Mink says, why did Hitler make the Nuremberg laws? Why, the Nuremberg laws? Why didn't he just persecute Jews since he had all the power? 1930s Ben. Radiology says, how much of the vote did Putin get again last Russian election? And Dr. Gamble says, Ben in the theater. He's doing his best. He's doing his best. His best isn't very good, unfortunately.
Margot Robbie, who plays Barbie at the beginning, half the time she plays Barbie is kind of stiff like a doll, and half the time she plays Barbie is just kind of normal.
Man, it's almost like sometimes it's just an intentional fucking joke. Crazy.
And so now she plays it super stiff like a doll. She sits down, you know, in kind of 90-degree...
Yeah, it's a gag.
...position like a Barbie would, and she keels over in the 90-degree position. And it would be funny, except she hasn't been doing it the whole film. Again,
oh my god, he's so dumb.
The level of inconsistency and bad filmmaking here is just off the chart. They needed somebody to actually sit down with them and be an adult in the room, and no one was there.
Oh my god, are you kidding, Ben?
So, at this point, America Ferrera and daughter decide they've given up on Barbie because Barbie won't fight for herself. And so they take off. And Michael Cera, for no reason, is in this film. And he's in the back of the car. And
what do you mean for no reason? He plays one of the primary supporting characters.
Don't know why.
Yeah, I'm confused about that.
And he serves no purpose other than to have a random fight scene. And also so that they can make a Trump building the wall reference. Right? They're apparently the Kens are going to build a wall to keep people from getting in or getting out. Now, here's the weird part. No one has ever entered or exited Barbie Land before. Why are you building a wall? What is the necessity for a wall? No one explains.
You can say that in real life too, Ben. Walls aren't effective, so what's the point?
Explained. It's just a dumb Trump reference so that everybody who is friends with Noah Baumbach and Greta...
It's almost like most people recognize that as a joke and find that funny, and you just don't like the fact that other people don't take that shit seriously.
Gerwig can laugh and nod. Like
people did just enter and exit too. The portal hadn't been closed at that point, and they had no reason to think it was going to be closed at that point because Barbie hadn't fixed the problem yet.
Morons they are. And so, the daughter and the mom, they decide, no, we have to go back and we have to save Barbie Land. They're going to save Barbie Land. And who do they go to? They go to...
Oh, holy crap. Mogminer, thanks for 20 tier 1 subs. Wow, holy crap, that's a lot of subs. Thank you so much.
Wise, weird lesbian Barbie. They go back to Kate
That's so funny to me. They did code this character to be very punk and have like a punk hairdo later. And I knew he wasn't gonna get that it's intentional and call her a lesbian. Holy shit.
And they ask her about this. And they bring Barbie with them. And they're gonna try to figure out a strategy. How do they stop the Kens from winning the vote? Now, you might say to yourself, wait, aren't the women majority? Do they not have agency?
The women have been brainwashed to not have agency, Ben. If you watch the movie, yes, that's what happens. The women are brainwashed by the Kens into not having agency. Correct. Gnome Pickles says, no one has ever left Barbie Land before. Meanwhile, in the movie, Skipper showed up at the house of a little girl. Yeah, it's clear that it's happened before.
See the women? They have no agency, apparently.
In the plot of the movie, that is exactly what happens. This or his WAP video, what's more embarrassing? I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this.
So apparently the women have no agency and they are a majority and yet they have to be deprogrammed. They're going to be deprogrammed by weird Barbie and her crazy cadre of feminist heroes.
I love you guys.
And this is when we start getting into the real. You think it's propagandistic so far? Oh man, wait. Here is where we get into like the real meat of it. Okay, so we end up with Barbie complaining. She's complaining to weird Barbie. And she says, oh my God, they've brainwashed all the other Barbies. They've brainwashed all the other Barbies. She says, quote, either you're brainwashed or you're weird and ugly. There is no in between. And weird Barbie says, tell me about it. And this is the perspective of the film. Either you're a third wave feminist kook who hates men, truly hates men, or you're brainwashed.
Hi, Barbie!
The point is that, I think he kind of missed it a little bit. Ben, the point is that to a lot of men like yourself, if you are someone who recognizes systemic injustice against, like, women in the world, then usually men like you will see them as gross, unattractive, blue-haired feminists. Like, you've literally expressed those feelings in this video, demonstrating that. Like, that's the point they're making, and you're proving it? Rachology says, this movie is ridiculous because it suggests men push the notion you can judge women on their appearance. This woman's hair and shoe choice makes her ugly and a lesbian, Ben Shapiro within the same 20 minutes.
Hi, Ken.
There's no in between. There's no actual relationship between men and women. There can't be any sort of fulfilling relationship between men and women.
Again, did he put earplugs in for the last part of the movie?
There are no decent males in the entire film. All the men are garbage. The only...
No, not true. Like I said before, America Ferrera's husband seems like a nice guy who's supportive. Even, like I said earlier in this video, Will Ferrell's character, while complicated, certainly does seem to actually care about, like, women, even if he is profit-driven. The idea that there are no men in this movie that are shown positively is just absolutely nuts. Alan?
The only man who even appears mildly is America Ferrera's husband, who's just kind of a joke. He's there for literally 10 seconds in the film.
Oh my god, can you imagine a main character's spouse not getting as much screen time? Crazy. It's almost like that happens all the time in movies starring men, but you don't care about that, so...
Making jokes about how he can't speak Spanish. That's his whole role in the film.
It's not even a joke, it's just showing him being supportive and trying to learn.
The man is
I mean, it's kind of cute and funny, but it's not mocking him for that. It's endearing to his character.
In the film. Everyone. And so, this is the perspective of the film when you come right down to it. Either you are brainwashed, or you are weird and ugly. And Barbie's like, that's what Barbie says. I mean, the only decent male is Alan, who apparently wants to wear pink and probably is supposed to be gay. I mean,
What? I don't think Alan is any more or less gay-coded than any of the other Kens. So that's something he's putting on that character, which is interesting.
It's supposed to be pretty clear.
Like, isn't Alan with Midge? Like, Midge is his, like, partner, right? So, he's in a heterosexual relationship in the Barbie universe.
From the film, although, really, the take of the film is that all the Kens are gay. That's really the take of the film, is that it's all homoerotic.
He's so used to male gaze that when there's female gaze, he's like, what is this? Yeah. See how it feels?
Kind of stuff.
Let's beach off.
Anyone who wants to beach him off has to beach me off first.
I will beach both of you. You off at the same time.
In any case, the filmmakers are so insecure with even their own script.
The irony.
That they then have the narrator jet in to say, Margot Robbie might not be the best person to make this point, right? Because Barbie's saying, I don't feel beautiful anymore. And they're like, Margot Robbie. They literally jet in to say, Margot Robbie might not be the best person to make this point. Then maybe you should...
Correct.
Shouldn't have written the point. Then maybe you shouldn't write it like that. Maybe you should not be a writer. Maybe you could be...
Says Ben Shapiro.
Do that. Okay, no. Okay, this is when we get the full-bore thesis of the film. And guess what, guys? The thesis of the film, made by women, made for women, made starring women, funded by a studio that is largely staffed by men. The take of the film is that it is impossible to be a woman in the modern age. Absolutely.
It says it's very difficult. It says it's hard. I don't think it says it's literally impossible in the sense that it's undoable, but it does come with a specific set of struggles, yes, which is what the movie says.
Absolutely impossible.
And for the record, it also expresses that the Kens have issues too, and that we should all work together and not care so much about these groupings as much as we should recognize people within these groupings, and if they have things that are wrong, we should work together to help and make things equitable so everyone can be themselves and not feel like their Kenness or Barbie-ness, their gender basically, to inform everything or most things about them. Lennon Cat says, why does it always sound like Ben Shapiro is getting so frustrated in an argument that he's about to cry? Like, my guy, you're alone. You can take your time.
And so we get this long speech of America Ferrera talking about how it's so difficult to be a woman. They want us to be this way, but not that way. They want us to be thin, but they don't want us to say...
Once again, decided not to internalize any of it.
That we're thin. They want us to earn money, but they don't want us to earn money. They want us to do this, and they don't want us to do that. They want us to answer for men's bad behavior, but they don't want us to offend men. They want us to do this, and they don't want us... Oh my God, it's so difficult to be a woman. So the same tried, truistic bullshit that they've been propagating in every...
I keep hearing women complain about these same social issues. It must all be bullshit. That's an interesting take. Raciology says, once again, I ask, doesn't this guy literally campaign to make life harder for women to do things? He thinks that's fine, though. Women shouldn't have as many rights. He just thinks that's naturally true and that different people have different roles.
New wave feminist film for the last 45 years in the United States is now essentially telescoped into this one speech from America Ferrera, including a few cutaway shots of Margot Robbie looking up adoringly at America Ferrera as she explains that it's super hard to be a woman. It's so damn difficult to be a woman. You know why? Because of the patriarchy, because of the men. That's the actual story of the film.
Literally, the movie makes a distinction between the patriarchy and individual men. Literally, it does that.
And then they make a couple of other dumb references, right? The Zack Snyder cut. The men, they like the Zack Snyder cut. Wow, that's terrible. Okay, fine. Then they say, you know what we need to do? We need to...
That joke made me laugh. Shitting on the Snyder cut, that was pretty funny.
Disabuse all of these Barbies of the patriarchy. How are we going to do this? We need to allow them to live with the cognitive dissonance required to be a woman under the patriarchy. That's a line from Barbie. Now again, they keep doing this. They keep having Barbie drop these extremely literate and well-articulated lines, but she's supposed to be a plastic doll idiot.
No, she's not! You missed the point! Again, you were so focused on the aesthetic that you didn't get the point of the movie. You were like, she's blonde and pretty. She must be fucking stupid. No! That's the point! Oh, God!
Authority should derive from the consent of the governed, not from the threat of force.
It doesn't matter. What is their actual strategy? So they have 48 hours to stop this vote, which shouldn't be happening in the first place because it makes no plot sense. Because the men are fascists and the women are victims. But somehow they've been...
It's so funny to me because, like, yes, the Kens are treated like shit in Barbie Land initially because it's the stand-in for women. The Kens are the women of the Barbie universe in terms of gender power dynamics. That's the joke. If you think that the Kens were mistreated, then you are agreeing with feminism. Maps and Mimic says, Ben doesn't, don't be a shit writer, Shapiro. Curb Your Enthusiasm music. Terror on the Prairie. Gnome Pickles, thanks for gifting a sub. Appreciate it.
Given 48 hours to stop the vote. So, what are they going to do to stop this vote? How are they going to do it? Well, they're going to separate the men and the women.
Barbie!
They're going to turn all the Barbies against the Kens. It's so subtle. The symbolism is so subtle. Turn all the women against the men, and you will save society. That's the message that you could be shoveling directly into the brain of your 8-year-old girl, if you so choose, this weekend.
Maximum volume.
So, they literally say this, get the Barbies away from their Kens. How are they going to achieve this? Well, they're going to make the men complacent and then take their power. This is how women have achieved power. Now, let me just digress briefly here in how women actually achieved power in Western civilization. The answer is that they lobbied men and men gave it to them.
Oh my fucking god.
That is the actual answer as to how women achieve power in Western civilization. The amendment to the Constitution that allowed women to vote was passed solely by men because women couldn't vote.
Which happened due to the long and arduous journey that suffragettes took working grassroots around the country to get it done by communicating, by educating women about what their rights should be, about the fact that they should have agency. Getting this to be a national conversation, you fucking idiot.
It turns out there are a lot of good-hearted men out there who like women and who want women to be able to live lives that they want.
Then why wasn't it already from the beginning women's right to vote, Ben, you stupid bitch?
Turns out that many of us are...
Dr. Gamble says, this broke me.
This broke me.
Gitara with a 19-month sub says, Ben is just appealing to cis white men every time he reviews media. He thinks rap isn't real music and seems to agree with Dennis Prager's shit takes on what constitutes, quote, true art. When I saw thumbnails for a 45-minute video of him reviewing the Barbie movie, that's about what I expected, claiming that the movie is a part of a grander conspiracy to remove men from power. It's not surprising, but it is disappointing nonetheless. Rageology says, fun fact, in the UK they had to legislate the size and sharpness of hat pins because women were using them to stab policemen.
Husbands and fathers. Many of us have daughters. Many of us love the people we're married to.
Many of us. Oh boy, Ben.
Turns out that that actually describes a huge number of Western men, that we are not your enemy.
Alan, for instance, and Alan wasn't the only male character in the movie that helped. There was also the earring Barbie and sugar daddy Barbie. Funny. And Alan were allies. They made it clear that there are men who are allies. That is correct. The movie does that. The movie literally has that within the metaphor that it is making. It has men that are allies and are not themselves promoting toxic patriarchal ideas and in fact do their best to fight against them. There are male allies in the movie.
And yet the entire premise of the movie is that what actually happened in the feminist movement is that women seized the power away from the men.
Yes. Yep.
I'm sorry to break it to you, ladies, it ain't true.
Oh my fucking god, this is so condescending. The underlying feeling here is that he's like, we can take it away too. Yeah, do it, bitch. Fucking try it, Ben. Goddamn psycho. Gnome Pickle says, I love my daughter, so maybe I'll deign to give you some rights and a little social power as a treat. Now don't you dare make me think about how I abuse power, or I'll call you a whore and claim you're attacking me.
It ain't true. This notion that women vote as a block is not true. Married women vote very much like their husbands, actually. Single women.
You stupid bitch, people marry people with the same political views as them. You goddamn moron. People don't usually marry people with completely opposing political ideologies and worldviews and moral values. You're such a fucking idiot, Ben.
Vote more like a block now than they did before. But it turns out that...
Man, it's almost like there's one party that's hurting women way more. Crazy. It's almost like the movie implies some of that. Wow.
Are individuals, and some women vote one way and some men vote another way, and...
Literally, the movie also talks about that. Being individuals. That's, like, part of the movie.
But, again, the idea here is very simplistic. Men versus women. Battle royale. And that's what this literally turns into, a battle royale between the women and the men, but really it's about getting the men to fight each other. They bring all the Barbies one by one. They distract them. They bring the Barbies in one by one, and they
Is this the Doctor Who Blu-ray set I was mentioning a couple streams ago? Yes. Yes, it is. Comes out in November this year, and it is a box set of from the 9th Doctor all the way to Jodie Whittaker. So that's cool.
Brainwash them.
There's only like 6,000 too.
How do they unbrainwash them? Well, they tell them truths like, any power you have must be masked under a giggle. have a question. I mean, I work with a lot of women. Do they feel like the power that they have has to be masked under a giggle?
Yes, women typically, if they talk very bluntly like men do, they're called like shrill, or they're called a bitch, or they're like, oh, she's so demanding, she's such a bitch, what's her problem? So yes, even as I've transitioned, I myself have, like, the way I talk is very blunt a lot of the time, and it definitely comes off as like people think like, who is this bitch, what is she doing? Moira Soma with, sorry Maps and Mimics, I'll get to him in a sec. Moira Soma says, I've actually watched Terror on the Prairie. It's the most confusing mess I've ever watched. It was badly acted, poorly written, with no actual story arc, and no discernible meaning except guns good. Excuse me. Incredibly bad in every aspect. I would have recommended that you watch it on stream, but it's not like The Room, it's just extremely boring. Also, that would be copyright infringement, so... Okay, so there was a Maps and Mimics one I missed somewhere. Ben, you aren't one of the kind-hearted men that want women to be able to live how they want. Very true. Oh, Mogminer with 1,000 bits says, too much of a boomer at 38 to know how to resub while attaching a message, so bits. Greets from an agender game dev person since 2005. Thank you for laughing at these people. Raucous laughter is all they deserve. Same with on Bird's site, Discord, and Telegram. Would love to chat for a bit regarding game BS. Keep on keeping on. Sure, you can follow me on like Twitter or Discord or something and shoot me a message if you want. 13% to level 2 on a hype train. Woo!
Was this film written in 1943? Who wrote this film? Well, we know who wrote this film.
Greta Gerwig.
A feminist.
One of the most, like, popular current director-writers. Like, I'm telling you, maybe my taste is a little different, but, like, if you were to ask me who are my favorite directors working right now, number one's probably Ari Aster. Ari Aster's great. He's the one who did, like, Hereditary, Beau is Afraid, Midsommar, Greta Gerwig, Jordan Peele. Those are the ones I'm really thinking of. I'm sure there are probably more if I looked into it, but those are the ones that come to the top of my head. Like, the idea that she's just some rando is crazy. She had multiple popular films, and that's why she was put in charge of this. Starry Night, thanks for gifting 2 Tier 1 subs. Robert Eggers, what has he directed? The name isn't clicking for me for some reason. 69% to level 2. Nice.
Feminist writer who gets paid millions of dollars to make horse. One of them says, we have to...
She got paid millions of dollars, and this movie's tracking to be, if not above, close to $1 billion, so I'd say the money was well spent, Ben. How many scripts have you sold, by the way, that you weren't also a producer on? Rageology says, was this film written in 1943, when the fight for abortion rights was still a thing? This misogynist piece of shit. 71% to level 2.
Reject men's advances without damaging their ego. Or, theoretically, you could just reject men's advances and damage their ego, because what do you care? You have to...
Because men will get violent. I don't know if you know this, Ben, but when you reject some men, they will violently threaten you or actually murder you. Don't know if you've considered that.
Tend to be confused about money. Is this a real...
Oh, The Lighthouse, The Northman, The Vivitch, and is working on Modern Nosferatu, and I'm excited. I actually haven't seen... The only one of these I've seen is The Vivitch, which was great, and I kind of watched The Northman, but I fell asleep. I was, like, really... I was like, mostly asleep for it. So... I would have to watch it again to remember what even is going on with it, but I think I thought it was visually interesting, but I don't remember the plot. But The Vivitch is great.
Thing? Like, do women pretend to be confused about money so the men will explain it to them?
Yes, sometimes women will, in order to placate men, pretend not to... I'm not saying this is all women, I'm not saying this happens all the time, but yes, men can be taken advantage of often by playing stupid. It is a thing you can do to men. Not all men, but yeah, a lot of men will fall for it. Nemesaur, thanks for gifting 10 Tier 1 subs. I'm sorry, does that upset him? That hit a little too close to home? Has his wife asked opinions on specific things before, and he's butthurt about it?
This is also... it's such a claptrap. And then my very favorite. Do you want some pants? Because that's really what this is about, is women really, really want to wear pants. That demonstrates the power of the patriarchy is that men really don't want women to wear pants, and women...
Literally, that was a thing, Ben. Women did have to fight to wear pants. In many places, it was illegal for women to wear pants. Like, during the 20th century. Ben, do you think this is stuff that's made up? What?
Women really, really want to wear pants.
Love your leg warmers.
Lennon Cat says, Ben, women fake a lot of things for a man's ego. Woo. 4% to level 5 on the hype train. Like, sometimes your husband will come to you and be like, honey, there's this popular song I'm covering on the show about women who get really, really, really wet. That's not normal, right? Because you're always so dry. And she goes, yeah, honey, that's very weird. It's a medical thing. Don't worry about it. And you go, I knew it! And then you go on your show and make an ass of yourself. And then the internet makes fun of you forever. That's canon in my head now. That's what happened there.
Nice ass cut.
And then it's, you know, all the men being victimized, all the Kens being victimized by these various tactics, up to and including Ryan Gosling hitting on a trans woman, meaning a dude who has a voice.
Again, in the Barbie movie, they don't have genitals, so the idea that the Barbie is trans is kind of a weird esoteric idea anyway. Like, and sure, gender isn't about your genitals. I understand that. But it is for him. For him, the issue is that there's a dick involved, because again, conservatives and transphobes tend to be very surface-level aesthetic about things like this. So to him, it's the dick. If it makes you feel better, this particular Barbie does not have a dick, because none of them have dicks or vaginas. They say that in the movie. Dr. Gamble says, Ben, why do you think so many pants for women don't have pockets or only have shallow pockets? To this day, give you a hint, it's not a fashion statement. Gnome Pickles says, yeah, Ben, that's normal. Now run along and make your show while I go to another slumber party with Nurse Allison. I am so curious, genuinely, because, like, I understand that this is a show. You know, Ben Shapiro is a real person and his wife is a real person, so outside of this, I sometimes think about, like, what is their dynamic? Because they're probably happy. I'm not one of these people that's going to joke and assume, like, oh, his wife must hate him. I don't think so. If she wanted to, she could leave him. I'm sure she'd be fine. She's a doctor, you know? So I do wonder, like, what is her worldview like? Like, is she fine with everything he's saying here? Is she in agreement about all of it? Is she also this weird, pedantic, like, faux intellectual? It's just really interesting. Isaac Inanimate says Paris legalized women's pants in 2013. I'm assuming that hadn't been followed for a bit.
Deeper than Ryan Gosling's, which is an actual scene in the film. Which is...
Oh my god, can you imagine? Straight cis men dating trans women? That never happens, except it happens all the time, Ben. It literally happens all the fucking time. I understand that you have an issue, but, like, not everyone does.
Which is just great. Okay, so then, final step. Finally, the women have been disabused. So now they're going to play the ultimate prank. The ultimate prank is that they are going to turn the men against each other. How are they going to turn the men against each other?
They make them all jealous. It's funny.
They're going to turn the men against each other.
Minute left on the hype train, 11% to level 5.
By switching partners. They're going to get together, and Barbie is going to be with Ken.
They're literally playing on the men's insecurity to turn them against each other, yes.
Classic Barbie and classic Ken, they're going to be together, but then they're going to move on to the other Kens, and the Kens are going to...
Is Ben's argument here going to be men aren't that insecure? Because who boy? Isaac Inanimate says, about pants in Paris, you're right, Hannah, it was altered in 1902 for women on horseback and bicycles.
Going to start fighting...
Officer, I swear, I'm on my way to bicycle. On a horse.
Each other. Over the ladies. Because they're going to...
Cassifel says, the amount of straight men who have sent me DMs saying, hey, I love how you look, holy shit, let me fuck you, is astounding. Myself, you guys know I'm married, you know, so I don't have experience in the dating world, you know, as a trans woman towards men, you know, I'm married. So I don't have this experience, but I have talked to other trans women, and it is so funny to me that absolutely there are straight men who will hook up or go on dates with trans women, but then also be weird about it. Some of them aren't. Plenty aren't, you know? Plenty are completely fine and great. Of course. Awesome. But some of them are weird about it. They'll be like, oh, like, yeah, I'm like, how do I express this? I've seen screenshots on some of the subreddits about, you know, trans stuff of, like, straight men clearly being insecure about the fact that this woman is trans. And I'm not even talking about chase or fetish stuff. I'm talking about men who self-identify as, you know, straight, who, like, it's not gay to have sex or be attracted to a trans woman if you're a man. Because, again, trans women are women. But they're so weird about it. They seem super fucking weird about it because men in general, unfortunately, because of patriarchal standards and toxic masculinity that pervades our society, which is talked about in the Barbie film, by the way, because this harms everyone, not just women, it harms men as well. It makes them have this disconnect between how they actually feel and how society tells them they should feel, or at least how they feel society is telling them to feel. In this case, general messaging from a lot of men, like Ben Shapiro, like Andrew Tate, like these assholes, is super transphobic. And that, oh, no matter what, you know, a trans woman is always, you know, I mean, I don't even want to say it, but you know what I mean. However, a lot of people don't see it that way, because, like, it's not true what Ben Shapiro thinks about trans people. So yeah, there are plenty of, like, cis straight men who will see a trans woman and be attracted, or at least see that she is attractive, and they feel super fucking weird about it. But it doesn't mean that there aren't men who find trans women attractive, Ben. Like, I don't mean to bring this up, because again, this isn't a fetishistic chaser way, but it's a pretty popular category on certain websites, if you know what I mean. And I'm pretty sure we've caught Glenn Beck looking at it. Have we ever caught Ben looking at trans porn? I know, maybe it wasn't even Glenn Beck. Was it Alex Jones? We caught Alex Jones. I don't remember if Ben's ever been caught. And I'm not even saying he is. He might not. I'm just saying a lot of people, including right-wingers, have been caught partaking of certain adult material involving trans women. Fenekagami says Daily Wire did a couples game where the men had to guess their wives' answer to the questions. In addition to being a complete display of how unapologetically all of the men of Daily Wire are literal man-children who can't function without their wives, it also revealed that Ben is the most well-adjusted out of all of them. That doesn't surprise me. Like I said, I think he's a nepo baby who doesn't know how the world works. Like, I don't even necessarily know that his wife is mistreated. Like, I'm sure there are some things that I would very much consider, like, fucked up. But I could believe that Ben genuinely respects and loves his wife for being a doctor. I don't think he'd be married to her if he didn't, on some level, respect that, oh, she worked really hard and is a doctor. I don't know if he understands that that's not the standard, and it's not even the standard that he espouses, or the standard that he allies himself with. Even his sister pushes, like, the trad wife stuff. So it's like, do you see the problem, Ben? Even if you, in particular, don't have a problem with your wife being a doctor and having agency and going out and doing things and succeeding in the world on her own merits, you are allied with people who don't feel that way. Your own sister doesn't seem to feel that way. Lennon Cat says, not only just the male insecurity issue, but even on the most surface level, the movie makes it very clear that Kens only exist as accessories to Barbies. They start the movie not knowing who they are without attention from Barbies. Oh, shit. I'll get that right in a sec. They start the movie not knowing who they are without attention from Barbies, like Barbie doesn't even know where the Kens sleep at night. It's a straight satire of how women used to not be considered anyone but their husband's wife. They don't seem to understand that. Jeff, how you doing? I hope you're having a great one. Is today Passions Day? I don't know if today was Passions Day. Whatever you were doing, I hope you had a great time. Chat, do me a favor. Go check out Real Jeff Holiday. There is a link in the chat. I've known Jeff for a really long time. Great guy. Very funny and insightful. Heavily recommend. He does stuff here. He also does Wingnut Roundup once a month on YouTube. So check out his YouTube channel as well. Excellent. If you like my Tinfoil Tuesday and looking at, like, people espousing crazy stuff, Jeff's for you. Check out Jeff. Anyway, Mogminer with 1,000 bits says, I'm running my pool... Oh, I should introduce myself too. If you don't know me, I'm Hannah. I'm a leftist variety streamer. Oh, thanks, Jeff. I'll do my best. Have a good one. I'm a leftist variety streamer. I cover all sorts of stuff. I cover conspiracy theories and debunk them. Again, if you've seen Jeff's Wingnut Roundup, I do stuff similar to that. Riff on it, debunk it, etc. I cover right-wing politics and make fun of it, like Ben Shapiro here, doing his Barbie review and not understanding the goddamn movie. All sorts of fun stuff. So if you like what you see, give me a follow. The outfit is, when people give me a cumulative $100 tips or get to a level 10 hype train, they get a day where I'm in this outfit, because it's funny. So there it is.
Switch over. Now,
What is this editing? You can tell that he got editors at some point, and maybe it's because I don't watch a ton of Ben Shapiro anymore. There are other people I find more interesting to cover. He's typical sort of, like, economic-focused conservative. Like, definitely he touches on social issues and hates trans people, but generally he's like a corporatist stooge who just wants tax rates to be lower, and any social issues he can use as a wedge to get that pushed forward, he's happy to do. He's also homophobic and transphobic, but, you know, on a professional level, it's more about pushing right-wing stuff for economic reasons. Oh god, I lost my train of thought. I got nervous because of the raid. Shit, what did I start that sentence saying? I'm gonna read this real quick. Someone remind me. Fennikagami says, for context on topic of what's their least favorite chore, all the men answered laundry, all the wives said correctly that the men don't know how to do laundry, but Ben admitted that at times he helps his wife with dishes. He was the only one that said something even that sweet. Woof. Woof woof. Oh, did I stop in the middle of your donation? Holy shit, I apologize, Mogminer. That's probably what threw me off. I'm running my pool of bits out specifically because Shabibo's bloviating causes physical pain. I feel an intense sadness for his wife, or any of his partners who haven't realized it yet. It's all just so sad, between Tremors, Blade Runner, and The Last Starfighter. I wish we could all just stop giving a crap about gender. Give me people sauntering around in dresses with full-on facial hair. It shouldn't matter. Destroy the gender for the pure middle finger that it gives a tradition. It's just interesting. It's interesting. All this gender stuff. Because you guys know I'm trans. So to me, you know, this idea of binary gender, like, I don't think it exists in the binary form as presented by people like Ben, but I do find myself on the feminine side of that spectrum, and I consider myself a trans woman, trans femme. It is interesting to me to see people who are completely incapable of letting go of this, like, binary idea, though, and even the idea that they don't believe trans people can exist. It's just interesting that there are people who think that, like, I don't know, who you are is entirely determined by your genitals and one pair of chromosomes. One chromosome on that pair, in fact, not even both. Your agender specifically in the middle of it all? Yeah, there you go.
It's
just interesting. I wish people could understand that, like, hey, if you are a cis man or a cis woman and you're comfortable with identifying as that, that's awesome. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that, and no one would say otherwise. No one's trying to make you trans. No one's trying to make kids trans. We just want trans people, or gender non-conforming people in general, to be allowed to live their lives in a way that makes them happy as long as it's not hurting anyone. That's the long and short of it. It's just that, but they act like it's some sort of intentional conspiracy to destroy the world, and it's not. It's not that. It's not Satanism. It's not a conspiracy. It's just people wanting to live the way they want to live and be who they feel they are, and no one's hurting you regardless of how you feel about it. There's always going to be people in this world that, like, don't view me the way I view myself and don't respect my identity. And they can do that. That's their right. Their right is to believe whatever they want. Their right's even to say whatever they want. But I do think, as a matter of just, like, don't be an asshole, why are you going out of your way to go and, like, be shitty to people? I recognize that I can't make Ben Shapiro a better person or a more understanding person or open person, but I do wish he just, like, wasn't in the business of spreading the nonsense.
Puts you fine a point on this, but this makes no sense at all. Because guess what would happen if a bunch of beautiful women decided to switch to other men simultaneously? You know what the men would do? They would throw a party. So,
Ben, the entire idea was that it was a commentary on male insecurity. Like, all the Kens were also attractive. Like, everyone in the movie was, you know, it's a Hollywood movie. They were all pretty much traditionally attractive, you know? Even the people that you don't like the I should say, the Barbie played by the trans woman or the Barbie played by the larger woman, like, they both still were very attractive people, you know? Like, they were still the ideal form of themselves, you know, as a Barbie, because that was, like, the part of the Barbie thing. So, like, the idea is, even if we're thinking an internal logic of the movie, which who the fuck cares? It's a fucking Barbie movie. The Barbies aren't any more or less attractive to the Kens than each other, because they're all attractive. If everyone is super attractive, then everyone is average. Do you get it? It's like Syndrome from The Incredibles. Rachology says, did he just say that men think that women are just interchangeable and all men care about are looks? Yeah, not the argument he wants it to be, is it? Gnome Pickle says, why it's almost like the movie boiled something complex down into something absorbable in a 2-hour movie so they could share a message about something, but that's crazy talk. It's like he needs it to be concrete. If he tried to watch the movie Beau is Afraid, he'd have an aneurysm. If he tried to watch Mother, he'd have an aneurysm. It's like he doesn't understand that, like, in terms of film storytelling, there is a continuum between very concrete storytelling that exists in a grounded real world that is representative of our own. And on the other end, you have movies that are basically oops, all metaphor. The movie Mother, for instance, the last hour or so of Beau is Afraid. Movies that almost entirely unshackle themselves from the constraints of a logical real world environment and logic, and just go into metaphorical representations of things. And it can be one or the other, or anywhere in between. And it's not even like Barbie was that not concrete. It was still wrapped around a very typical Hollywood 3-act structure. It only very lightly and in a wink-wink, nudge-nudge Deadpool way really broke the fourth wall and kinda got metaphorical. Like, it's not hard to understand, Ben. Really.
They turn the men against each other. And then we get a 20-minute long segment of the Kens fighting each other using various implements.
Which was awesome. The Ken fight, along with the dance number and music number. Oh, the I'm Just Ken song fucking slapped, by the way. Is that on Spotify yet? Oh my god, that was great.
Ranging from, like, small bows and arrows with sticky cups at the end to...
Yeah, I get it, because they're dolls and they don't have weapons because they're not G.I. Joes. They have sports equipment because they're Ken dolls. Get it?
To tennis rackets. And that turns into a musical number.
This fucking musical number is amazing and I love it. I think, Ben, do you understand that Ken is a sympathetic character? Folding Ideas has a video with commentary on how annoying he finds people like Ben are. The metaphor is in the Shimmer video. I've seen that. I think I've seen most of Dan's stuff, but except the stuff on Warcraft. I've never played Warcraft, so I didn't watch that video. Anyway, like, the way that I view Ken in the movie is, certainly at a certain point in the movie, he gets taken in by these toxic ideas about masculinity. The patriarchy, all those stereotypical things he gets into. Oh, the beer and the belching and having no respect for women and being disgusting and, like, you know, whatever. Cool. To me, it's not that, like, he's this objectively awful character. No. We saw from the beginning of the movie, Ken's entire thing was he was not respected at all. When he came to the real world, he got joy just out of people respecting him just for being a person. Like, he didn't feel like he was lesser. He felt just like he was a person worthy of respect for being a person. And he unfortunately overcorrects and takes it too far because he gets information from bad people. To me, this is analogous to, like, a 14, 13-year-old boy coming across, like, Andrew Tate, right? Or Jordan Peterson, or even Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, John Doyle, Nick Fuentes, picking up a bunch of really toxic, awful ideas without having the life experience to contextualize those and understand that, well, these people might be voicing some of the same grievances you have. The solutions that they have are not ideal for you or anyone else. Sure, it might be fair for, like, I don't know, I've heard Andrew Tate before, for instance, express that he's like, oh, men aren't allowed to have emotions or whatever. He then also endorsed it, but he did express, like, oh, men aren't supposed to have emotions or whatever. So I can see how a young boy living in our society could see that and be like, that is messaging that I've heard, because that's messaging that's pervaded our society for a really long time. That's an idea that came from men. That is not an idea women invented, but nonetheless, it is something that men, I'm sure, do struggle with and feel that there are these expectations put on them by society. So then they might overcorrect into this manosphere bullshit. And that's what Ken did. Luckily, the movie has him basically be deprogrammed, but it's not like he's this evil character that you're supposed to loathe. You're not supposed to dislike the Kens, right? The Kens are representative of something. The Kens are going through their own struggles and arc.
What does any of this have to do with the plot? Nothing. Literally nothing.
What does it have to do with the plot? What are you talking about? They're fighting, and it's fun. You could say this about almost any movie with an action scene. Oh, what's the point? It moves the plot along. It's visually interesting. It's fun. It's entertaining. It's a movie. It was also funny, and it's a comedy, so... Mogminer with another 1,000 bits, wow, says, why is Ben so obsessed about what bits people are sporting anyway? He tries to couch it in this family-friendly vocab, but at the end of the day, he has a horrendously toxic view about people who simply want to forgive my profanity, just want to yeet their shit and move the hell on in life. Oh, it's an obsession. This obsession people have, like Ben Shapiro with trans people, is nuts. Ben Shapiro thinks about transness more than I do. I'm trans. Fenekagami says, by the way, I just heard that apparently Disney is trying to do a live-action Gargoyles film. Prepare for Chuds to start this woke crap with that. Oh, God. Gargoyles is good, and it concerns me, because I don't think Disney's going to do a good job with it, but we'll see.
It's just a 15-minute digression, because they wanted to insert a crappy musical number with not particularly good...
It was not a crappy musical number. It's probably going to... If it doesn't win Best Original Song at the Oscars, it's probably going to be nominated at minimum.
Dancing.
It's incredibly funny. It's performed great by Ryan Gosling. It also kind of just slaps. The dancing is good with it.
And then...
Like, how much of a musical fan are you in the first place, Ben? I really don't know. Maybe he is. That's fine if he is. It's just like, for me, it was great, and it felt like some of it was almost an homage to Grease, which they showed a scene from Grease, the Grease Lightning, John Travolta, and all the, greasers, the T-Birds, and their, black outfits in the white space with the Grease Lightning song, and it felt like that was almost a setup, and this was the payoff, was they were doing that, basically. It felt like a Grease homage.
What are the women doing during this time? The women are voting. The women are voting. So now we know the Democratic turnout strategy. The Democratic turnout strategy in 2024 is...
Yes, Greta Gerwig very specifically has knowledge of a Democratic secret strategy to not allow men to vote. Weird projection, considering Republicans' main goal towards the next election is to make it harder than ever for, let's say, minority communities to vote or poor people to vote.
Going to be to get all of the Republicans to fight with one another using tennis rackets while they go and...
In fairness, the Republicans are already fighting with one another. That's not us. You guys are dysfunctional.
They do the voting, apparently. So they go and they vote. After they vote, they reestablish basically how it was. The matriarchy. The matriarchy is reestablished. And Ken, who is now really sad because he's lost his power, and all he wanted in the first place was just to be treated decently by Barbie, is he...
Yes, which Barbie comes to understand in the scene where they have the discussion in her bedroom. That's a whole scene in the movie.
He treated decently at the end by Barbie? Of course he isn't. That would be silly.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. She treats him fucking amazing considering the things he did. What? She literally is like, she has to give him this talk of like, hey, Ken, I don't feel romantically interested in you, but you're a good person just for who you are. You don't have to do all this toxic masculinity stuff.
At the very end, he is told that he needs to learn to live without Barbie.
Yes. Men are not entitled to any specific woman that they are interested in. Does Ben disagree with that? What?
I just don't know who I am without you.
You're Ken.
But it's Barbie and Ken.
Yeah, this is the scene in the movie where she's like, maybe it's Barbie and it's Ken. They can both be individual people who respect themselves for just being them without being attached to another person, without depending and having their entire sense of self-worth externalized onto another person. That's a really good message, like, in general, is you shouldn't allow your self-image and self-esteem to be dictated by any person. Like, that's not healthy. That is a good message for anyone. And also, it's very pro-Ken and men here. It's saying you don't need to be an asshole. You don't need to be a dick and, like, toxic in order to be a man. Just be yourself. Just be a decent person. Just be an individual. You don't have to look at rules of society that, like, tell you to be a piece of shit and follow them just because. Be you. That's basically the message of the movie. That's why at the end he's wearing a shirt that says, I'm Knuff. Like, I'm enough. Because that's the message, is be yourself. You are enough, whoever you are. Don't allow stereotypes or your gender dictate who you are as a person. It's one of the main messages of the goddamn movie.
There is no just Ken.
And you don't need to get the girl to be valuable? Yeah. Lennon Cat says, respect can mean to either treat someone like an equal or to obey them. This is proof that when Ben Shapiro and other right-wingers say they want to be respected, they just mean to be obeyed.
Who's literally created as a doll to be with Barbie, he needs to learn to be apart from Barbie, and she needs to learn to be apart from him, because atomistic isolation and loneliness is the...
They're not gonna be alone and isolated. They're just, like, do you think there are no... that literally all the male-coded characters are called Ken. They're all Kens, and they're all Barbies, except for the few exceptions, like Michael Cera's character, etc. So, if he wants, he can find a different Barbie that actually is into him, or even a Ken, maybe. God forbid, Ben. And Barbie can go and do whatever she wants in the real world. That's the point, is having agency and being yourself.
The best way to find fulfillment, ladies and gentlemen. It'll be best for Ken if he never sees Barbie again. It'll be better for Barbie if she never...
Yes, maybe not never see again, but Ken does need to get over her because she's not interested. Correct? If someone isn't interested in you and you're interested in them and they like say that, or if you know that, you need to move on. That's life. Does Ben not know that?
Never sees Ken again.
I mean, maybe. If so, okay. Is she forced to be with this man forever just because? Even though she doesn't like him that way?
Secular humanism is at its finest. We've reached the apotheosis. Men and women don't belong together. They belong very, very much.
That is not what the movie said. She literally went to the real world, which is full of men.
Apart. This is all topped off by Issa Rae calling somebody a motherfucker. Again.
It's bleeped. It's bleeped for the record. The motherfucker is bleeped. It's mother beep, and there's like a Mattel logo over the mouth. So it is an implied motherfucker, but it does not actually say motherfucker.
Perfect for your 7-year-old girl who loves Barbie dolls.
Again, the movie's PG-13. You are allowed to say fuck once in a PG-13 movie, which I assume that was going to be, but I assume Mattel said no, thus the bleep, so they could still have it, but it was censored.
Perfect for her. And so we learn that men and women are supposed to be separate. They are not supposed to be together.
Did Barbie come off as kind of ace in the movie? I'm not ace, so I can't really say. She definitely didn't in particular seem interested in anyone in that way, but the Barbies aren't really like that. It was more about romance, so like a romantic, sure, I could see that. She didn't express any romantic interest in anyone, but also, you know, sexuality wasn't really her goal in any way. Mogminer says, what Ben doesn't seem to realize is that there are countless Kens who opt to not participate in the social treadmill that is this toxic masculinity crap. People should just be able to be themselves. FFS. This is not a difficult equation. Ben acts like it's calculus when it's middle school algebra. Let people be themselves and encourage them. What's so wrong with that?
Together.
Because feminism bad in Ben's world.
And that maybe the matriarchy will allow the men not to be on the Supreme Court of Barbie Land, but maybe they can get some lower circuit court judgeships.
Again, Ben, you literally said earlier that women got rights because men let them. This is a reflection of that. It's a commentary on the incremental nature of getting rights and fighting for rights. That's the point.
This is what we learn. And we learn one day the Kens might have as much power and influence in Barbie world as women have in the real world. Because, of course, women are again, just absolutely subjugated in the real world.
Ben, do you think that culture and leadership largely is not dictated by men and male opinion? It's kind of wild to me. I think part of the problem is that the window is so to the masculine side that to Ben, or men like him, he doesn't understand that this isn't neutral. He thinks the current state is neutral when it is very slanted towards men. He doesn't understand. That's a shame. Ben, if women had as much power as men, there wouldn't be a single state in this country where abortion was not available. But here we are.
I think that's the end of the movie. Wrong. This thing has more endings than Lord of the Rings. So, ending number 1 is we find out that Ken is going to live apart from Barbie and he's going to find himself in being Ken. Ugh.
Cult of Cautious Optimism says it's really telling to Ben's worldview that if an individual woman doesn't want to be with an individual man, that means she doesn't like men in general, that she must support the separation of men and women. That is a good point. Huh.
The utter joy of self-exploration. Next.
Wait, does Ben think self-exploration is bad? That kind of fucking explains a lot, doesn't it?
Get an ending in which the CEO of Mattel, who's been completely sidelined. You remember the CEO of Mattel? Remember he was supposed to be chasing them into Barbie Land for no apparent reason? So he's now...
It's because they're kind of the red herring villains. I had someone else express this too. If you hear a Chud be like, why were the board of directors there? They're the red herring to be the villains until the reveal that Ken and the other Kens are doing stuff. They're there to support a plot structure. Again, if Ben was a good screenwriter, he would understand that.
Now in Barbie Land, we don't know why he's there or what he's there to do, except that we need Will Ferrell in the movie to provide no laughs. He doesn't provide any laughs.
I thought he was funny sometimes, not all the time. Will Ferrell's always been hit or miss, but there were some jokes that I laughed at, for sure.
So he shows up. His motivation throughout this movie has been completely inconsistent. He started off wanting to put Barbie back in Barbie Land so that they could make money. And then he is told at one point that when Kens have taken over Kendom, they will make just as much money. He's like, no, that cannot be. I'm an ideologue on behalf of women. And then he arrives, and he is told that...
I'm an ideologue on the behalf of women? That's not what he said. He said he wants to support little girls' dreams. That's interesting that that's how you interpreted that.
That America Ferrera wants to make ordinary Barbie. Which, by the way, would sell 0. Anyway.
The literal joke in that scene is that the movie is ordinary Barbie. That's the joke. It would sell 0. Literally, the joke is about the movie he watched that is currently the #1 movie in America and is tracking to make close to, if not at, $1 billion. Rachology says, Ben Shapiro is the same age as me, and my mom had to her husband's permission, I assume get her husband's permission to open a bank account after they got married because that was the rule of the bank. The fight for basic equality is living memory, for fuck's sake. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's nuts.
That will be profitable, and so now he wants to make ordinary Barbie because he's back.
Yes. Because CEOs follow money. Correct. It's a commentary on the producers of the film, the people at Mattel, the people at Warner Brothers. That's the joke.
Being uber capitalist. Evil capitalists who's making money off of Barbie because, again, Mattel are the bad guys, but they're also the good guys. They're kind of the bad guys.
Man, it's almost like life is complicated, Ben. Have you considered that the themes in the movie were multifaceted because in real life, issues are multifaceted, and that even though corporations are cynically in pursuit of money, they can sometimes do so in a way that also promotes decent messaging, and that's a conflict that often comes up and is a discussion that's had often in like leftist circles about like, hey, how much do we use capitalism to fight capitalism? How much do we use avenues that are used to oppress in order to show people a different way? It's like he doesn't understand that films can have, like, things don't have to be black and white. It's kind of a big part of the themes of this movie is that black and white thinking is destructive to people. Mogminer says, rhetorical question, how luxurious must these folks' lives be where someone's gender, accounting for neopronouns, 2 comes anywhere near the top 10 list of things I need to worry about this week. Respecting pronouns, gender, self-identification is a basic level of respect. Same as calling someone Bill if they want to rather than Steve. How free of stressors must Ben and other folks' lives be that this even becomes a concern? Ben is a Nepo baby, so he has very little concern.
But they're mostly the good, but they're a little bad. And so that's ending number 2 at this point. So we have the Barbie Ken ending. We have the CEO of Mattel ending, where he says, we'll make ordinary Barbie, and then girls all over the world will know that ordinariness is fine and okay. Because it's not that girls play with Barbie because they think that she's beautiful and it's aspirational. No, it's bad. Okay, so then we have ending number 3. You think you're done? Wrong. We're now 2 hours deep into this piece of shit. And we have now dug halfway to China, and we are going to keep digging. So we have ending number 3. Rhea Perlman shows up to lecture us all about the patriarchy again. You haven't heard it enough. We got to beat this sucker into the ground.
You didn't hear it enough. You still don't get it. You're actively participating.
We're going to take an axe, the blunt end of the axe, and we're just going to beat this thing to death. We're just going to beat it to death. So Rhea Perlman shows up because Barbie, it turns out, she spent too much time in the real world. That was the patriarchy, and was terrible. So terrible that she wanted to stop it from happening in Barbie Land. But now she wants to go back there because she actually learned some feelings over in the real world. So she decides that
applesauce conditioner, thanks for following.
All this whole story was just Pinocchio. That she just wants to be a real boy. And in what can...
There have been hints of that throughout the movie, is that she was coming to be interested in things outside of the stereotype that she was representative of. That's a major part of the movie, and it's her arc. If you watched the movie and paid attention and weren't taking notes about things that made you mad, you might have noticed.
Only be termed a sort of bait and switch at the very end of the film, just to please the core...
He's gonna fucking hate this.
...audience, which is moms and daughters. They insert a bunch of footage, I kid you not, like home video footage of moms and daughters playing.
Oh my gosh, the horror of people... Oh my god, people who came to a movie that's primary hook is the nostalgia are being pandered to with nostalgia of mothers and daughters? Don't you know that only fathers and sons are allowed to feel sentimental, except not really because men aren't allowed to have feelings or something? The fuck is this criticism? Zenthashal, thanks for 100 bits, says Fred Rogers. You're special just the way you are. Ben Shapiro explodes. Unironically, Fox News has criticized Mr. Rogers for that messaging, and it wouldn't surprise me if Ben Shapiro has too.
That's what it is. Like people living their lives in female ways. Because Rhea Perlman is going to show Barbie what it's like to be a human, and then Barbie is going to say that she really wants to be a human just like you. Just like you. And so they hit you with the nostalgia play. At the very end, the whole movie, which should have been nostalgia and about moms and daughters, instead, the entire movie is not that. The entire movie is instead about how men are evil and terrible. And also Mattel is evil and terrible. And then at the very end, they shove in this little nostalgia play in the hope that they can buy back the audience at the very end of the film. And
I like the idea that he thinks that most audiences haven't liked the movie.
Barbie decides that she is...
That's why it's doing so well, Ben, clearly.
...going to be a real woman now. Now, when she goes... That's ending number 3. There's still one more. So, when that happens, when she goes to... When she goes into this white area that's supposed to be heaven, because the person who...
It's not supposed to be heaven, necessarily. It's an etheric white space. It's nowhere. It's not supposed to be Christian heaven, you fucking weirdo.
She's talking... Rhea Perlman is actually the person who actually created the doll. And we're supposed to be... This was supposed to be a secret. Because the Mattel was run by men, but the big secret all along is that a woman created the doll. News. It's not a secret. She was CEO of...
Correct? I don't think they played it as a secret. The secret wasn't that a woman created Barbie. The secret was, oh, this is her ghost, because the real woman died in, like, 2002. So it was like, oh, this is that woman, but her ghost, played by Rhea Perlman.
The company for 30 years. CEO of Mattel for 30 years, like 1945 to 19...
I thought you said this was a movie for 8-year-olds. Do you think 8-year-old girls know who the CEO of Mattel was?
75, until the IRS caught her for tax evasion or something.
Oh God, what did I say?
That the patriarchy said that it created Barbie, it didn't. No,
Rhea, whatever her name is.
No one thought the patriarchy
Sorry.
created Barbie. Again, don't bother with the facts, don't bother with sense, don't bother with chronology, don't bother, none of it matters. So, Barbie is now sent back to the real world. And she is now going to experience the apotheosis of what it means to be a human woman. So we've learned early on in the movie, when she goes to the real world, she's catcalled by a bunch of the construction guys, and she says, I don't have a vagina. And she, again, amazing line for your 7-year-old girl. She'll love it.
PG-13 movie, and I don't know if you know this, Ben. No, I'm not even going to say that.
So apparently, when she is turned into a real woman...
The one thing everyone knows about Barbies is that they don't have genitals. Everyone knows that. You gotta make the smooth joke. Everyone knows that. That joke's been done. That's a cultural, like, touchstone joke, basically, is that Ken and Barbie are smooth. Of course they're going to reference that.
She has now grown a vagina. So the first thing that she does is she goes to the gynecologist. Because
the first thing we see her do.
Ladies, the apotheosis of your being is not motherhood. We got rid of that at the very beginning. And it's not being a wife or a partner, because women are supposed to be apart from men. It is your vagina.
That's actually funny, because that's kind of what you think, Ben. You think a vagina and stuff is what dictates what a woman is. You and Matt Walsh and all them. It's kind of funny. But no, that's not what the movie is saying. It's actually kind of a funny joke, because if you know how films are structured, it looks like at the end of the movie she's pulling up to some sort of business where she's going to do like a job interview or something. But the joke is she goes in and the person's like, what are you here for? And she's like, I'm here to see my gynecologist. Smash cut to credits. That's the joke, is you're supposed to be like, haha, we thought she was going in for a job interview or something, but it's just a joke about how she now has genitals. It's fine. It's basically a gag. It's a gag, Ben. For the love of God.
It is that you go to the gynecologist. Ladies, this is what makes you the most human you can be.
That's not even close to the movie's message.
Is that you go to the gynecologist. Now, I could point out here that that's really transphobic. That according to the same people who made...
Wait, so you understand that what you're saying, the thing you're complaining about is what you think. So what are you complaining about? And that's also not what the movie says.
This movie, not all women have vaginas.
Yeah.
And not all people with penises are men.
Yep.
I could point that out right here. Because
you just did.
Because it obviously conflicts with the very ending of the film. But
no, it doesn't. No?
Instead, I'm going to go with this one. At the end of all of this, they've boiled down. They have a whole conversation about identity and death and meaning. Right? This whole conversation. What does it boil down to at the very end? What it boils down to at the very end, apparently, is being biologically female is the only thing...
No, it doesn't, you stupid asshole! Ah! Did you like... This movie is one of them. I like this movie, but as a movie, it blatantly says its themes. It just says them. It's a movie that says, this is what the movie is about, and he still missed it! Oh my god.
That matter.
The vagina bit is a gag. It's a joke, you stupid, stupid man.
And that's it, kind of. That's it. Like, it all just boils down to a lady at the gynecologist. That's female power. Female power is Barbie goes...
If that's what you got from it, Ben, I don't even know how you read. You're so illiterate, I don't even understand how you function in day-to-day life.
Gynecologist. Which, I don't know about you ladies, but that seems like that's not, like, the most feminist message. That lady parts are the entirety of the lady.
That's not the message.
So excellent job. And with that, we end the film, and then we have the glossy, credits with a Nicki Minaj song. Nicki Minaj.
We know how much he loves Nicki Minaj. Rachology says Ben has been referring to Barbie as a woman even though she didn't have a vagina, so I think even he doesn't believe that.
Version of I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. This movie started off as Barbie, and it was Weird Barbie. It was the toy that was handed off to Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig, and they played with it too hard. They decided that they were going to turn it inside out. They're going to rip off the hair, they were going to shave it, they were going to make it ugly, they were going to put all sorts of makeup on it, and then they were going to throw it out in the public.
The fact that he, again, very surface level, doesn't understand the character of Weird Barbie if his most impression was just, oh, she's ugly. In the movie, they literally say, like, oh, we're sorry that we called you weird to your face and behind your back. He's doing the thing. He's taking it at face value and saying, she's weird, so she's bad.
Now, those of us who are on...
It reminds me of that senator who a little while back, like, referenced the X-Men movies, but seemed to think the mutants were the bad guys. Rageology says, why does he keep calling Weird Barbie ugly? Because in his mind, she is a feminist and therefore ugly.
On the right, we look at the politics of this movie, we're like, man, so it sounds like a double sandwich. It doesn't sound like a Big Mac, it sounds like a double Big Mac. Right? It sounds like the plot is crap, and the characters are crap, and the humor is crap, and then on top of that, the politics are crap. But you're missing.
Basically, any one of his points can be responded with, that's a joke, it's PG-13, or that's not what the movie actually says. Yep.
The point. There's a reason this film has 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. And the reason is, if you are on the left, you can make one of the world's most boring, crappy comedies. You can waste an extraordinary amount of money and talent.
Is it a waste if it made a terrific profit? Isn't that what you're worried about, Ben? You're a major, like, super capitalist, right? This is like the first movie Warner Brothers has made money with this year.
Waste some of the great IP ever created. But as long as you slather it in a bunch of warmed-over glorious Steinem nonsense, the critics will just salivate over you. They'll pretend that this is an actual good movie.
It is a good movie.
So here's my prediction.
In my opinion, it's subjective, but like I think most people who've watched it think it's a good movie. It's had good word of mouth.
The marketing campaign for this movie has been astonishingly good, right? If you walked into this movie and you knew nothing of what I just said, what would you think this movie is? You would think that this movie was probably something like the Disney movie Enchanted, but with Barbie.
You're thinking of Life Size. You're thinking of the movie Life Sized.
It's going to be Barbie in Barbie Land, and then it's going to be Barbie in the real world, and it's going to be charming, and it's going to be funny, and it's going to be warm-hearted, and it's not going to be...
I think it was those things.
Vicious and cynical. And it's not going to be what morons talk...
Definitely has some cynicism in it, but something can have heart and cynicism.
Talk about at Hollywood cocktail parties. It's just going to be fun. It's going to be a place where a mom might be able to take her 7-year-old or 8-year-old girl and enjoy themselves together, and then walk out with their arms around each other. You might think that's what it was going to be. And undoubtedly, millions of moms and their daughters will think that. That's what you're seeing at the theaters. That's why you're seeing everybody wearing pink to the theaters. It's become like a Star Wars kind of thing, right? It's an actual cosplay.
Gnome Pickle says, I don't think I will take the opinion of a man who thinks that the height of humor is to say I identify as an attack helicopter. Take that, leftists, very seriously on what is funny. Yeah. And the anti-SJW crap is becoming less popular, so they're freaking out. I honestly think that's true. Like, there's never been a firmer example of, like, the get woke, go broke thing being proven to be total bullshit. Like it always has been. At the end of the day, it matters if the movie's good or not. Ghostbusters 2016 didn't fail because women and feminism. It failed because it wasn't a particularly good or funny movie. Right? We've known that as long as you make a good movie, people will see it.
The number of moms who are going to take their daughters back to the theater week 2, good luck with that.
Okay, it's doing all right so far.
Really, good luck with that.
Barbie has an A cinema score. Yeah.
Hollywood decided to empty out its own IP. Here, they decided they were going to take a golden piece of IP and they were just going to smash it and turn it into Weird Barbie. And
yet it's making money. That must be confusing for you.
I got to tell you, and this is going to have some ramifications for Barbie the brand. I don't know why Barbie the brand would hand this property over.
If anything, it's going to make it more popular just by brand recognition. Are you kidding me?
Clearly hate the property.
This was like similar to the Lego movie. This is like a really good ad for Barbie. All the sets and different dolls and outfits are on display.
In the real world, the patriarchy rules. Men are really bad. Women need to separate off.
Men aren't really bad. Toxic masculinity and patriarchy is, but that doesn't mean men, all individual men are bad. No.
For men and hate men.
It's not even only men who promote, like, patriarchal stuff. There are women with internalized misogyny that also participate in these systems.
In order to be unblinded to the patriarchy, and then they can overthrow the patriarchy and create paradise. That is the thesis of the film.
No, it's not. Oh my god.
Last comment. Whenever I do film reviews like this, lengthy film reviews of movies like this, the left is always like, why are you taking this so seriously? How dare you take...
It's not even that. It's fine to do serious criticism of this movie. Your criticism is just so off base, it's not even in the same ballpark.
This so seriously. Well, because this is a movie where hundreds of millions of dollars will be expended to get people to watch it. It has a heavily political message. It is explicitly designed to divide men from women. It has these negative messages.
Opposite of the point of the movie.
Directed at kids. It is supposed to be a kids movie. It's rated PG-13. It is not marketed to PG-13.
It's literally PG-13, Ben! Mogminer says, Ben seems to be overcompensating for something. I'm not going to be that person who goes, gender idiot must be an egg. But I'll absolutely suggest that he go wander around LV 426 without a face mask and see what happens, because TOS, I don't even know what that means.
It is marketed to PG. It is marketed to moms who are going to skip the PG-13 rating and bring their daughters there anyway. It's a culturally relevant moment, a very culturally relevant moment.
Yeah, and you're on the outside. How's it feel?
And so the entire left's attempts to play the face tattoo syndrome, watch as we take a piece of children's IP and wear its skin around like a mask, like Hannibal Lecter, and we notice it, and then they're like, you noticed it? You're obviously very upset.
Wasn't hiding it.
I find it upsetting.
There's nothing in the movie that needs to be hidden, Ben. This is what you don't get. It's not a secret. It's not a conspiracy. These are just views that you disagree with that are prevalent within society, just not with the people that you hang out with.
It's based on children's IP, marketed to little girls, actually ends up being angry feminist claptrap that alienates men from women, undermines basic human values, and promotes falsehood all at the same time. And I think a lot of people are going to have a right to be mad. So we'll see what the income trajectory of this film is. By the way, it's just going to die in China. The overseas market for this film.
I don't know, and I don't really care about the Chinese market.
Good luck with the Chinese communists.
Rageology says, this has been a long journey to the left is grooming your children from Ben.
Government.
Hollywood has been less reliant on trying to get Chinese market share, especially since the Chinese Communist Party has kind of cracked down on the number of international releases that are allowed in. So it's been less of a focus. There was like 5 to 10 years there where Hollywood was trying real hard to like specifically pander to Chinese audiences, but they were never very good at it in the first place. And I don't think it really paid off, so I think they've kind of backed off of that strategy. Mogminer says LV-426 is the planet that the Nostromo lands on in Aliens. Hopefully the dots can be connected from there. Gotcha.
Oh,
and Lennon Cat says, I said it in a long Twitter rant today, but I'm 100% sure that conservatives don't believe they have political opinions. They think their opinions are facts. Oh, for sure.
Their kids in front of this sort of stuff. It is not going to happen. Final rating. Out of 10 Barbies. How many Barbies? 10 out of 10 being good.
Let me guess, 0. No, he might give it 1 for the production design. He did say the production design was good, which it is.
The answer is negative all the Barbies.
Oh, he didn't even give it a point for the production design. Shocking.
Negative all of them. I honestly, just as a piece of film, this sucker goes in like my bottom 10 ever.
Wow, you have not seen enough movies. Oh boy. Ben, I have some films to show you. We're going to start with Garbage Pail Kids, and we're going to get all the way down to the Breen films, and then we're going to finish with After Last Season. Rageology says, I thought the US was in a new Cold War with China, and so trying to appeal to China would be bad. I don't think that's the primary motivation.
Ever. It is that bad. Not just because of the politics, because the plot makes no sense. Because the writing...
The plot makes perfect sense.
Makes no sense. Because the acting, half the time, makes no sense.
I don't even know what you think you mean by that.
The entire film is a dog's vomit. It is a dog's breakfast of film. So, yeah, I'm gonna go with negative infinity Barbies. It is that bad. If 10 out of 10 Barbies is like the stereotypical Barbie, this is Barbie head atop the robot body made by the weird kid from Toy Story 1.
Do you remember the message of that, too? That doll wasn't evil and, in fact, was still nice, but just misunderstood because they looked scary? I don't think he understands any movies.
That's what this is. And also, by the way, Oppenheimer's good.
Well, that was awful to sit through. He's really bad at media criticism. God damn. MH Darkbeast says, I think we may need that cleanse now, Hannah. After this war crime of media literacy, Ben makes me weep bloody tears. I've been going for 4 hours, and I need to pee really bad. So I will leave the cleanse on you guys. Oh. Rageology says, as in the right don't do business with China, it's our rival, but now the movie's not appealing to a Chinese market is bad? I don't know. I've not heard that necessarily. Gnome Pickle says, I find it interesting that Ben can speak for 45 minutes on something that made him mad, but cannot speak on something that makes him happy. I think that's really sad. Alright, let's do this raid so I can pee and get out of this goddamn outfit. I'm sweating my boobies off. And I paid good money to grow these things. Have a good night, everyone. I'll see you guys tomorrow. We are doing a patron-only live stream tomorrow, so I'll see you guys there. We're also gonna do a regular stream earlier in the day, and after we're gonna do a patron-only live stream. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.